It's the 2025 USA Cycling Esports National Championships here on MyWhoosh for one final day of racing. Brad Soner alongside Emma Martin to bring you all the live action today, as we had a full day of age category racing here on MyWhoosh yesterday, and today the elites get their shot at it on a beautiful or maybe gray Sunday, depending where you are in the world. Emma, let's get right into it, starting with our elite women up at 11 o'clock Eastern today. We'll have our elite men following that at 12:30, but getting started with this field, one thing is for sure, whether you know how this one goes or not, this field is stacked. A lot of heavy contenders today.
Oh, it is, Brad, and it is absolutely brilliant to be here alongside you for this elite women's race. First up, the elite men to follow. And you are quite right. It is a really stacked field, and it's going to be so interesting to see how the racing plays out today. We've got riders in here who you do not want to be in the group on the run-in to that finish line, because they have phenomenal sprinting power, and we're going to see some of the women really try to break those groups because they do not want to take those contenders to that finish line with them.
Well, without a doubt, the biggest name on the start list will be the returning champ of Kristen Kolchinski, last year's winner, back for more this year. We didn't see her racing much on MyWhoosh this season with the Echelon Racing League, but she did qualify, did her race, so I think she's got to be the biggest favorite heading into this one today. But we've seen some really strong performances from other names on this list throughout the year that could give Kolchinski a run for her money.
Well, you're right. You know, Kolchinski, defending champion, coming into here, 9th in those World Championships in October. But there is real contenders here. And the first one, I think, has got to be Liz Van Hooling. She has been on such strong form on the Echelon Racing League. So is Elise Gallegos. And those two really are going to lay it down today. And Jennifer Reel, Emily Nyquist here, Alexi Snova again, and Melissa Aitken has shown us phenomenal resilience and dogged determination to be right in the mix at the end of the race, whatever happens out on the course during the Echelon Racing League. And who can forget when Nicole Meyer turned up and took the win in the final ERL race?
Speaking of wins, Jennifer Rhea maybe a slight advantage, having already raced on this course, winning her age category yesterday, back for more racing today. Will that have any impact on knowing how this course races? I know you got to watch some of the age category racing yesterday. What did you pick up from that competition?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things I picked up from that competition is the absolute continual pace and attack on this course, because the course in Hederiat, the Dust Trail course that we're going to take a look at right now, it is full of short, punchy climbs. Do not let what looks like a fairly flat profile fool you, because 42.2 kilometers of racing, that is 4 laps of the Dust Trail in Hederiat, 684 meters of climbing, and that is a lot for what looks like a relatively flat course. Now, it is continually short, punchy climbs, but it is very steep in places, and you can see about 2/3 of the way through that course, Brad, a real dip in the profile, and that descent and then climb out tops 13%. It really is one of those places to watch, particularly for a long run to the finish on the final lap if we've still got a bunch together.
We've learned in virtual racing, it's almost always won and lost on elevation changes on the course, and there's pretty much an entire course of elevation change today. So this one is going to be very interesting for our elite women's race up now. They are making their way into the starting pen now. We'll be looking for a good start here, but as most of these virtual races have gone, the selection really comes in the first few minutes of racing. You see a really, really strong sort of chaotic start, but it's really about making the first selection as they roll out of the line. So we'll see who's going to kind of narrate and animate those first early moves here, but I would expect that a lot of those big names will keep their characters close to the front out there.
Oh, I hope so. And my thoughts are with Kolchinski defending that jersey. She's not been well much this year, not been racing much. I hope she is well and fit to go to give a good defence to that jersey, but only time will tell. And the final seconds are ticking down until our elite women are away on the USA National Championships today.
4 laps around this course, so we'll get our first preview first time around as our riders Leaving the start gate, and Elite Women's Esports National Championships underway for 2025. There is your defending champ, Kolchinski, starting to make her way up towards the front. Now, this is also where the importance of gameplay comes into the racing part of things. You've got to be efficient in a race like this, and that means maximizing the draft, understanding how to ride in the group. So for a lot of these riders early on, it's about being as efficient as they can, saving their energy that they're going to need later on in the day.
Yeah, and it's also about skill and tactics, isn't it, Brad? Because this particular type of course, these short, punchy climbs, you've really got to have the skill to ride these rollers. They really are constant on the course, and understanding momentum and how to utilize the momentum on the descents to take into the climbs, really, really key. Positioning in the group, really, really key, because this is going to be about energy conservation for these riders. They really want to get the balance right here today in terms of staying in the draft, keeping those watts in the green, but also doing enough, if need be, to really create the racing. And there's a really fine balance here, and I'm sure riders have got different gameplay depending upon what the others do in this race.
Emma, let's run through some of the different metrics that folks are seeing on their screen. If they're tuning in to a virtual race for the first time, you'll see the individual stats of the rider that we're following up above them. That's where you're seeing power, heart rate, cadence, and then obviously the elapsed time will be the same for everyone. The interesting thing to watch here are the power zones. That's maybe the biggest tell as to what's going on in the race. You see in the upper right-hand corner, 6 different zones. That is unique to each individual rider, and it really gives a good look at sort of the effort that you're doing. Whether you understand watts per kilo or numbers like that or not, it's easy to understand this 1 through 6 power zone. So when you see riders going into the red, like you see Melissa Aiken right now, Kristen Kolchinski into the yellow zone, that's how you can tell that things are starting to heat up and pick up out there. As we get a look at Emily Nyquist as well, locked in her pain cave, just trying to keep an eye on those other riders like you talked about. This is the strategy of virtual racing right now, making sure that you respond immediately when someone goes into the red zone.
Yeah, 2 other graphics that are really good tells for our viewers. On the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can see the profile of the course, the yellow vertical line indicating where the riders we are in with at the moment are on that profile. And then on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, whilst at the moment the group are all together and it is 1 yellow dot on the screen, well, depending upon what happens in the race, it gives you a really good, clear indication. If we start to get gaps, we start to get attacks, what is happening in the race behind or in front of the riders we are with.
You can really see these ups and downs on this section of the course right now. What looked like a relatively calm profile from maybe 10,000 feet up. When you get down to it, you can see some very steep, punchy climbs here. And Elise Gallego's going to try and use that to her advantage going into zone 6 here, getting a little gap, putting the field on notice. That'll put Nicole Meyer over the top of her. So it is heating up right now. You're starting to see these tiny little attacks. They're just kind of testing the group to see sort of who wants to go with them, how easy it'll be to get away, how easy it is to split this group. But it's only a matter of time before we see the big one out there today.
Well, and we drop in with Alexi Snover on our screen as well, part and parcel of the pack. In front, she's right on the front of that pack, and you can see the look of concentration on her face, up and out the saddle in real life as well as she comes into one of these early rollers. It's just short and sharp, but you can really get the feel of the flow of the course and what our riders are facing today with this continual gradient changes. And Snover right on the front of the group with Kolchinski, Nyquist, Meyer, Aitken is there, Reel is there, Van Hooling is in the mix as well. The pack rolling well together at the moment, and we can see from where you just indicated previously, Brad, currently Snover sitting around, well, look at that, she's just punching up over another climb, and you can see it moving towards the yellow and the red as she comes up and over, but very, very quickly. This course is going to be a real test of how fresh your legs are and how strong your determination is here today.
Such a unique fitness required for this style of virtual racing, isn't it? It's not endurance fitness. You're not doing a solid 40, 50, 60-minute effort. It's these very short, intense efforts. It's almost an entire hour of intervals, which is not something that you typically train for, right? If you're training for, let's say a Fondo or a 100-mile ride or something like that, that's going to be a much different fitness than what you need to respond to these quick attacks. You've got to have those fast twitch muscles, and you've got to do it over and over and over. That's the difficult part about virtual racing.
It is indeed, and it really is one of the things our elite riders particularly train for. You know, they want to do repeatability, repeatable 1-minute efforts, repeatable 2-minute efforts, and time again. And those are the things they're training. So a very different type of training for this type of race, Brad, you're quite right, in comparison to perhaps 40, 50 or 60 kilometres out on the road.
Elizabeth Van Hooling, another rider who has been with us for a good majority of the Echelon Racing League earlier this season. That's kind of been the build-up to nationals here on MyWhoosh. Riders had to do at least one of those to qualify for the Elite National Championships here, but Van Hooling was in there every weekend, putting in the work, learning the platform, so it'll be interesting to see how she responds to these attacks today.
Yeah, she took a first, a second, 2/3 and a 5th in that Echelon Racing League, setting up for this National Championships. Now, in the National Championships in 2023, Brad, she took 8th in the World Championships, following a second place following that last year in the National Championships. The question is, can she go one better in the National Championships this year and take top spot? I think she's absolutely gunning for it today, and it is her goal of the season.
A much clearer vision, too, with Kristen Kolchinski. Big old bullseye on her back. She's got to be racing performance, as you said, as well. So with Kristen Kolchinski kind of leading the charge, that takes pressure off the other riders. They can all kind of put Kolchinski in that hot seat, try and force her to either go first or make a mistake or whatever it is. But right now they're doing a perfect job keeping these riders right where they want them. And I wouldn't be absolutely take a gamble like that early on, see if they can get things started, because Kristen Kolchinski's looking a little too relaxed for me if I'm one of the riders out there trying to beat her today.
Well, I don't know whether she's relaxed, settling into the rhythm, maybe, Brad, and the rhythm of this course constantly changing. But Kolchinski there on our screens, we can see her defending her title. She's in the pack. She's keeping an eye on what is going on as well. But for me, this is going to be really interesting because of this constantly changing pace. When or how are we going to see an attack come? At what point is someone going to go with a constant on-off pace? Right, now is the time to actually put the hammer down here on this course and to see if I can ride away from the group.
Well, the other problem is you got to sustain it. Like most things, if you make a call, you better be able to follow through with it here. So you've got to be very confident in that move. I guess they'll spend a little time just letting the legs shake out here, 8 minutes in. Still haven't seen a major attack. I wouldn't say anyone has tried to jump this group yet. No one's really tried to get away. When they go, you'll know it'll be a clear effort. They'll be into zone 5 or 6 for a good couple of minutes trying to sustain that effort afterwards. So we're really just waiting and watching right now. Maybe after the first lap, you probably take at least one of these laps just to get a feel for how that course races, how the group is going to race on that lap. There's really no urgency to get away. Even if you do find yourself away, you're going to be stuck out there for 30, 35K alone. So maybe an element of timing involved here as well in terms of when you want to get away. Probably wait for at least one lap under your belt.
Well, you would make that assumption, wouldn't you? But I've learnt one thing, never make an assumption, particularly when this woman is in the race field. Nicole Meyer is on the screens at the moment, and she surprised us all in that final Echelon Racing League by going clear of the pack and staying clear however hard they chase. So we know she's on really good form at the moment, and it's going to be really interesting to see what she can do today and how she rides and races, particularly because her trade teammate Liz Van Hooling has got to be right up there, particularly if this comes down to a sprint today as well. It was great to see Jennifer Reel on our screen a second ago, the USA National Cycling Esports champion for 2025 in the 45 to 49 age category. Fabulous to see her doubling up and being in with the elite pack as well today.
It's in 4th position in this group. Got to think there's a little advantage to having watched or been in those other races, although you get a pretty good feel for how this group is going to race. We've seen some very similar matchups in the ERL in terms of the roster out there today. So I think that the riders know each other pretty well, like who the breakaway riders are, who the sprinters are, who the kind of gap chasers are that can close things down. So we're starting to learn the strengths and weaknesses of the individual riders out out there as well. And you talked about the breakaway. Jennifer Ria, one of those sort of all-in, all-around, do-it-all riders that can win out of a sprint. She can win out of a breakaway. She can certainly ride in a small, select group. So it'll be interesting to see if she finds herself in any of those scenarios today.
Well, yeah, and I agree. But Melissa Aitken on the screen at the moment, I think this is a rider not to discount today because we've seen her ride really strongly. On occasion, she's got gapped on a climb, but she has real resilience and real determination to close down gaps. And when she sets herself a goal, she really works to achieve it. And we've seen her execute that in racing. You know, I think she could be one not to discount, particularly because this course does not have any long climbs. They're all short, sharp, and punchy. Now, saying that, as we come into the bridge here, this is the dip that's around 2/3 of the way onto this course on the Dust Trail in Hederiat. We drop down into the bridge. You can see nearly 15% on that descent, and then it kicks up the other side just as steep. For me, this has got to be one of the places on the course to watch, perhaps in our latter laps.
Elise Gallegos putting it into 9 watt per kilo territory. Everybody has to respond to that one. And now we'll see if she stays on it up and over the top. Looks like she's going to let off as everyone else kind of dials it back in as well. But absolutely right. You nailed it there, Emma. That's going to be one of the key parts of this course where they're going to put big watts at it every single lap, and eventually someone's going to crack up and over, right? The group's not going to look like this when they get to the top, maybe the second time, third time, or fourth time.
Well, definitely. And I think that's going to be really, really instrumental. And if I'd have been looking at the course, that would have been the place I'd think, that's where the attacks may go. Now, that may change the riders' racing and tactics because they may be thinking about putting in an attack earlier, maybe going into it, going in long to the dip. You know, we've seen on other segments where riders put the attack in before the climb, before they get to the base of the climb, either to give them some sliding room because they know they're not the best climber, or as, how should we say, an unexpected attack point. So perhaps that could be one dip, then utilizing the descent and the climb out of it to extend the gap. It is one of those places on this course to watch out for. But as you can see, Brad, it's just constantly rolling.
And they're keeping the power pretty high overall here, averaging a little over 3 watts per kilo, somewhere between 3 and 4 for the most part with these riders. Eventually that will wear on them. It's, again, just a matter of time as they make their way back around through lap number 1. I think that second time up that bridge dip and back out is going to be brutal because now that they've got a little taste for it and they see the effort that it takes, you can go just a little harder over the top of that. And as they continue to do little efforts like this, you see everyone back into zone 6 right here. There's really no reason for a big attack there, but it only takes one rider to light the match, and that's Nicole Meyer right now lifting the tempo. So you never know where these efforts are going to come, but Meyer just made them all make a little withdrawal from their bank account right there, and she's hoping that she's got more in the tank.
Yeah, and I think she probably has a lot more in the tank. She's got huge reserves today. I think Maya, she is one of the ones I am watching. Elise Gallegos on the front also likes a long run to the finish. She doesn't like to leave it late. She really does like that good kilometre long attack, not taking it into a sprint. Now, one of the things that's really interesting on this course, Brad, if you take a look on the top right-hand corner, we've got the final few rollers before we get to the flat section. That flat section is where the end of the lap is, which means come lap 4, it is a flat run to the finish line. It's the only flat part of the course.
So this is basically your preview of the last 2K, let's say, on the way in. So those last couple bumps on the profile, those are really your last chances to attack, right? Your last chance to try and use the course to your advantage. And Kolchinsky going to try and get away here.
Yeah. Big push from Kolchinsky there. Just coming up over the first kicker, dropping into the second one, staying on the pace and the power to take the momentum. Look at that. She's taking 42 kilometres an hour into the second of these rollers. And then she's going to move through to the flat section at the end of the lap. Now, this is really interesting because you could argue, is this an attack? Is this a practice to see what is possible on the run into the finish? Who knows? But Van Hooling and Gallegos are responding to Kolchinsky. She's got to be marked, and she's got to be a really marked rider in this race. You will not want to let the defending champion get inch on this course, because with these continual gradient changes, well, I think possibly when you are away, you could stay away. The difficulty here, I think, is getting that initial gap.
And you saw the early formings of a gap there as a little chaos on their way onto the flats here, but they come back together. So that is going to be a very interesting lap 4 if there is a group together. If a group survives all the way to the line, even if it's 3-4 riders, half of this group makes it to the line together. That's going to be a nice little scramble on the way. It'll be interesting to watch. But one lap down, back through the arch, and group all together. Nobody off the front, nobody off the back, right back where we started just under 16 minutes ago for that lap.
And they've all had a good sighting of the course. They've all settled in to the group and the bunch. The nerves are calmed. They're in the zone. There we go. We're in with Gallegos, Snova and Aitken into the windows of their worlds. They're also all on your screen in that leading group. All of the riders in this Elite Women's USA National Championships race all together at the end of lap 1 as they head out into lap 2. 3 laps to go.
And now heating up on the front, Kolchinsky going to be the first to go here. She gets a little gap with Van Hooling. Now we'll see if she stays all absolutely committed to this one, keeping this right at 6.2, 6.3 watts per kilo. What Kolchinsky's trying to do here is spit some riders out the back. This is just a long, sustained effort. She got the jump, and now you see she's just going to stay on this power at the front. She says, all right, it's time to race. There are no more easy rides in the Esports National Championships.
I love the fact the defending champion is bossing it and putting in the first main attack of the race today. So Kolchinsky pushes on as they head into lap 2, sits back down on her bike, really focused on what is happening behind. And what's happening behind is Snova, Gallegos, Mayer, Aitken and Van Hooling are all coming back onto her wheel as they go back up onto the next kicker. These kickers, 12%, over 12% it hits on that kicker. It really does. I can tell you, you can feel that gradient, the resistance underneath those pedals when you hit those, and it is a huge power effort to get up and over. And what's really interesting is some of the time the riders are backing off the power on the descent, taking a micro rest on the course. Others, we're seeing that attack continue because they're holding that pace over the top.
And the important thing is you can see they're almost never registering 0 watts per kilo. They're almost always keeping some level of power on the pedals on this course. You have to, just to be able to stay with that group. So it's not an element of riding up and over and then coasting back down the other side. You're pretty much putting watts on the pedals the entire time.
There's no freewheeling here. Could you imagine? That would absolutely cause carnage because you would be straight out the back because Aitken, Snova, Gallegos, Reel, Kolchinsky, Van Hooling and Mayer, no one of those riders is going to let anybody freewheel anywhere. The second they see you off the power, either they're off the power taking a break too, or they are dialing it to try and go away from you. And it's settled down this lap now after that early action from Kolchinsky where she's put that little stretch. She tested those legs going into the first few rises on lap 2. Now the pattern seems to have settled again. The riders pushing on the climbs, resting on the descents. So we've got that on-off power yet again, and they're settling into that rhythm.
On to second lap of racing here. Nicole Meyer making her way back to the front. She put a couple of tacks in early on, just riding, we'll call it aggressively at the front of the group. Alexi Snover going to take over on the front now, and everyone else happy to sit in at 3.5, 4 watts per kilo. Relatively speaking, Emma, can you kind of take us through where the average watts per kilo would fall for most people from your average bike ride out to the corner store to riding as hard as you can, the most wattage you could possibly create? Just kind of try and put that in context for the viewer at home.
post a letter. You're off down the shops to go maybe 1.5 watts per kilo, taking in the view, having a nice look around, maybe 2 watts per kilo if you were pushing, but you don't want to pick up too much pace. So that for these riders, around 2.5 watts per kilo would be a very easy pace. We're in with Jennifer Reel at the moment. She's just been down at 2.2 watts per kilo. Really easy pace for Jennifer Reel. If you're one of the racers and you're joining the Sunday Race Club, if you're racing and riding and you can hold 2.5 watts per kilo for a good hour, you could well be category 6 on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club in the women's race field. And then the riders progress. These women, they are able to hold for an hour, probably over 4.5 watts per kilo, 4.5 watts per kilo. Some of the riders a little bit more. These are world-class elite women in this USA National Championships today. We said Kulczynski, who is the defending champion, she was 9th in those World Championships in Abu Dhabi in October 2024. Alexei Snova finished 13th in those World Championships. These are absolutely world-class athletes. And you can see there the kick coming from Kulczynski again. Interestingly, that the defending champion is the one making the play.
Took it up to 9 watts per kilo up and over, and then backed off once the other riders responded to it. I think just, again, kind of keeping everyone on notice, making her mark, making sure that this...
It's up, down, up, down, up, down. She loves climbing. And one of the things I love about this is she's obviously decided, if anybody wants to take this national title away from me, then you are going to have to work for it. We are going to make it a hard race. It is not going to be easy. You are going to have to work, and you're going to have to work not just in terms of legs, lungs and heart. You are going to have to use your head as well. And that for me is absolutely joyous to see the defending champion coming out, not sitting in the pack, but really saying, okay, you want this, you work.
Nicole Meyer going to do the exact same thing here, keeping the pressure on this group as she takes it back up towards 6 watts per kilo, forcing Aitken and Gallegos to lift the tempo and chase behind her. But that's one more match burned, one less watt that they've got at the end of the day here, as you see the group starting to string out as well. The dynamics in this game are also pretty accurate. When the tempo picks up at the front, you'll see the group go into more of a single file formation. Then as they do ride in more of a calm group, or it slows down, you'll see them kind of bunch up like they are right here going up and over this climb.
Yeah, they are. And you can see Nicole Meyer up and out of the saddle in real life and dancing on those pedals to stay in the group, because the stretch is on again from Kulczynski on the front. She's gone up and over the top. She's on the descent, but she's continuing the pace and carrying it through. Another small bump in the road before a flatter section. But Kulczynski now looks like, well, the pace is coming off slightly. I was looking at that thinking she was going to head into time trial mode, but look at the gap. That continual pace stretched through the descent and then into the next climb rather than backing off and going again. You can see the damage it's done there to the group behind. And we've got one rider just off the back and a smaller chase group at the moment.
Oh, this is exactly what they wanted to do, split this group. It wasn't about getting away off the front. It was about getting riders off the back of the group. So they succeeded in getting rid of Snover, Aitken, and Reel also falling off the back of this group. Now, they're going to be able to chase back on, but this is a big, big ask of the legs when you've got to close that gap and get back up to the group. And then just when they get there, they're going to hit them again. Nicole Meyer back on the front, launching the attack again, keeping these riders in the red zone, keeping them on their toes and making this as hard as possible. There are some riders struggling to hold on to this group right now, but that's all that they can do is just try and hold on.
Well, the leading group of 8 in this national championships now down to 7. Emily Nyquist is the rider no longer in the group. And Kulczynski is dialing it on the front again. This is lap 2, and this is the run into that really steep descent into the bridge. They're on a descent at the moment. They've got one more climb before the flat run into that bridge dip, the one we said that was going to be really strategic, and Kolchinsky now really starting to light this up. Jennifer Reel, who raced yesterday in that age category championships, the rider in danger off the back here. She's going to have to push if she wants to get back into the group. Melissa Aitken is just ahead of her as well, but they are now around 5 seconds off the back of the group. It's looking like we are going to see a group of 5 riders, I think, Brad, go out onto lap 3 in the lead.
Mission accomplished for Kristen Kolchinsky. It's exactly what she wanted to have happen right there. Got rid of a few riders out of the group, took it down to 5 on the front. Looks like Jennifer Reel going to wrap things up for her chasing efforts here again in her second race of the weekend. So she gets a pass from me as an age group national champion. But now we watch Melissa Aitken, the next up, trying to chase. Aitken can still see the back of that group. She's going to make it 6 if she gets into the back one. But if she gets close, I'll bet you Kolchinsky hits it again, because she is just a pit bull when it comes to these race scenario tactics. Kolchinsky understands when the best time or worst time, depending how you look at it, to attack is, because she's had all this done to her before, right? She understands what it's like to chase back into the group and then have someone immediately attack that group, and she's just turning that right back onto these riders. So that's another way that Kolchinsky will be able to use her expertise in these scenarios, really understanding how to make it as hard as possible on these riders.
It is so true. And Aitken, the rider, now in trouble. You know, Kolchinsky's gameplay book has got a big tick around goal 1. Achieved, done, group smaller as they come to the end of lap 2. Aitken now 11 seconds back, but we know Melissa Aitken, we know that will not be the end of her race. You can already see, I can see that Melissa Aitken, she's going to go into time trial mode. She's going to watch what happens with this front group, and because you never know, we have seen the front group lose the gap. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily that the rider chasing has done anything dramatic, but the front group have sat up and started looking at each other. The gameplay has become more important than the gap to the rider behind. And that is what Aitken will be banking on. She will now settle into a rhythm. She will now continue in that rhythm, and she will wait to see what the group ahead does.
And the most important thing for Aitken right now is just don't overheat that engine, right? Just ride within your limits. Make sure that you can at least finish this race. The front group is going to do what the front group is going to do. And unfortunately for Aitken right now, they are keeping the pressure on up at the front. 5, 6, 7 watts per kilo going up and over some of those. So they're not going to be taking it easy in this front group yet, but it could still happen. If they start to look around and say, all right, Kristen, you're in charge, and she doesn't want to attack, well, then things may slow down in that front group. But I don't expect that to happen. Nicole Meyer has been super aggressive on the front. Elise Gallegos not afraid to take some poles up there. Liz Van Hooling been doing some work up there. So it's really every rider in this group has not been afraid of putting their nose in the wind today, and that's resulting in a very, very fast front of this bike race.
So the 5 riders now coming towards the end of lap 2 of this 4-lap race. They've got 3 more rollers to go before they hit the only flat section on the course, which is where the finish line banner comes at the end of the race. Maya Van Hooling and Kolchinsky on your screens at the moment. 3 riders in this leading 5-rider group. Gallegos and Snova, the other 2 riders in the mix. The pace settling quite nicely at the moment. If we head to those zones, that indicator, it's looking like it's zone 2, zone 3. Steady pace for these riders at the moment. So after the action, after the power to break the group being split, and the attritional nature of those attacks to bring this group down to 5, the 5 riders now a steadier pace as they come towards the end of lap 2. Regroup, rethink, what's the next attack point?
Last couple rollers and then back onto the flats. They went from 8 to 5 on lap number 1 or lap number 2, I should say, and into lap number 3. We'll see if they shed any more out of group 5 here as Meyer, Gallegos, Snover, Van Hooling, and Kolchinsky going to start the next one in this front group. And look at this, right into the pace line. This is a sign that things have calmed down and that they're riding steady, because they're starting to get into this pace line formation. That is the game recognizing that there's a group clearly trying to ride together, and so it kind of puts them in this nice single file formation. So for now, things are calm as they make their way back onto the flat one more time.
Yeah, they are at the moment. Interestingly, Maya just needing to put a little bit of a dig in there. And when there's just 5 riders in the group, the attention, the level of concentration this requires, really, really key. Because if a small gap forms and you've got 4 riders rolling strongly over 40, 45 kilometres an hour, you're going to need to dig to get back onto that group. And that's about concentration. You cannot let your concentration go. You really need to be paying attention. Our riders and racers see exactly the same on their screens as our viewers are seeing as well. This is the information they are processing at the same time they are racing. And concentration, absolutely key if you want to stay part of this 5-rider leading group right now.
Little move, rolling to the front here from Kristen Kolchinski. She's going to attack right through the line here and get this race lap started with a party as Kolchinski takes him up to 8 watts per kilo, immediately attacking the group. She saw the ease of riding there. She saw things were starting to calm down, and she decided that was enough of that. So Kolchinski gets back to it on the front and puts the pressure on a couple riders in a little trouble here. Snover has a little gap. She got rid of Aiken 1 lap ago, and now Snover having to recover from this one in what is now a group of 5. But looks like she's going to be back into it. Kolchinski, though, striking the fear into the hearts of these riders.
Yeah, she is indeed, and she really is making the play. Melissa Aitken, interestingly, in 6th place. I'm keeping my eye there because that gap is yo-yoing a little bit depending upon what this front pack are doing. So Aitken has settled comfortably into what for Aitken is a strong time trial pace. She's sitting at around 4 watts per kilo, and she's moving through. The gap came down to around 15 seconds. It's now back out to 20 because of that attack from Kolchinski. But if that leading group sit and settle for a while, we could well see Aitken close that gap down. So Aitken into a rhythm. This is exactly what she needs to do. She's done it before and closed the gaps down. It's going to be interesting to see whether it works for her today. The gap is at 18 seconds at the moment. So very much reliant on what is going on ahead. But great to see Melissa Aitken digging in deep here.
Ton of respect for Melissa Aiken. That is a never say die attitude to hold on to that gap when you've got a group like this riding away. So many riders would have already thrown their hands in the air. That computer would be unplugged so fast at getting dropped out of this group, but staying on it, and she's maintaining a shot at getting back into this group. You just never know. So very, very brave riding from Melissa Aiken out there today, trying to hold on to this front group of 5 who continue to go at it. A lot of into zones 4 and 5 rides here as Alexi Snover and Nicole Meyer keeping the pressure on this group. All the credit in the world to those two as well. They've both been super aggressive out of this lead group today, going all the way back to when it was a group of 8. They are certainly not sitting back and letting Kristen Kolchinski have the ride that she wants today.
We know, Kolchinski has been quite driven on the front. Maya, we know she likes to go out in the front and she likes to lead a race. Alexi Snover in the mix here. She's second wheel at the moment. You can see her tucked in, and you can see she's just popped out of the draft. So if you are new to MyWhoosh, when the riders' watts are green, they are in the draft. When they are white, they are out of the draft. And obviously, if they are out of the draft, they are expending a little bit more energy than those who are in the pack and hidden with those green numbers. So that is where you want to be for energy conservation. But Gallegos, Van Hooling, Meyer, Snover and Kolchinski, the 5 riders here in the group. For me, Gallegos hasn't put her nose out in the wind much at the moment. She's very much been part and parcel of the group, but fairly quiet. A little like Van Hooling. For me, this is Kolchinski, Meyer and Snover who have really been driving this so far.
Snover just did it again, up and over that one, keeping her bike up on the front of the group. Here goes Meyer back over the front. Kolchinski's having this work done for her. I mean, both of these riders are doing exactly what Kristen Kolchinski wanted today, which is making this race tough. But you got to appreciate that confidence that they believe they can stand up to Kolchinski in this competition of fitness here and say, all right, we can take everything you can throw at us and more. So Nicole Meyer doing a great job keeping this field on their toes today.
Well, they are indeed, and they roll down the other side. And Kulczynski on the back of the group at the moment, making the most of being able to see what's going on ahead of her. Snova on the front, Van Hooling, Gallegos, Nicole Meyer is in there as well. As you can see ahead, the next roller is coming. It really is. I mean, for me, I think riders either like short, sharp, punchy efforts, or they like long, sustainable climbs. For me, I know my legs. I like to get in a rhythm on a climb, and I would much rather someone put a 4, 5, 6 kilometre climb ahead of me where I can tap a steady rhythm and push up there than this constantly changing pace. You know, at some point, you're going to get out of the saddle to kick in the final lap, and your legs, well, they are going to be in one big hurt locker from the continual changes in gradient, and they are going to say no.
I don't know where my preference would be on trying to attack out of this group. I guess I'll take the long, sustained effort for, yeah, like you said, when you stand up and you just don't have that response, it's one of the worst feelings in the world, right? The 90th or 91st effort, however many you've done throughout the day, and then one time you just go to do that effort and it's just not there. Everything's all locked up underneath you. So it's a tough feeling, and it's 10 times worse when it happens at the finish of a race, right? And that's exactly where it's going to come when these riders lock up. It'll be responding to a crucial move or into the run-in. So, yeah, if you're not tuned for that style of racing, then you're in for a really, really tough day out there. Now we're starting to see Jennifer Reel on your screen locking in with the other riders back there in the group off the back. Looks like they're going to start to come together here. Melissa Aitken has to decide at what point do you stop chasing Alexi Snover and start holding off Jennifer Reel behind her. So Aitken is kind of right in the middle of that decision right now. About 30 seconds up to the front group and about 30 seconds to Jennifer Reel behind her. So we'll keep an eye on that. But meanwhile, Elise Gallegos back to the front group and attacking, splitting the group even, as she's going to take Liz Van Hooling with her. Krista Kulczynski just a couple seconds off the back of that group as Gallegos and Van Hooling get a link up here. Now, this is a very interesting scenario here, Emma. This is a winning group of two that can absolutely go to the line together if they work together and get this right.
Yeah, work together is the key words there, Brad, because at the moment, Van Hooling letting Gallegos do all the work on the front. She's come up onto the wheel and she's sat in. She's not gone over the top and taken a turn. She's not done anything to drive this attack anymore. What she's actually doing is bringing the group and offering the group an opportunity of draft to come back onto Gallegos' wheel. So this is not going to stick. Great job by Elise Gallegos, really signalling some clear intent and some that she is feeling good today. Now, we know that Gallegos has got to go long, but take a look at this. Kulczynski goes straight up and over the top. Now, Van Hooling didn't do it, but Kulczynski did. So the group comes back together and Kristen Kulczynski does what she's been doing all race so far. She's been going up and over the top and pushing on when the pace settles.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. The brutality of Kulczynski's race tactics and her ability to just make this race as tough as possible on display right here. You also know that Gallegos is going to be a little deflated that no one kind of took the bait, right? No one followed the plan because she clearly wanted to try and get away and stay away, right? She was looking for someone to work with her. It was clear that that wasn't going to happen, and so she came back, and then Kulczynski immediately attacked right over the top of her. Didn't even give her the chance to work together. There was no indication of like, hey, I'll get into this breakaway with you. That was Kristen Kulczynski turning the screws on the other riders. So another brilliant move here from Kulczynski, but Gallegos having a great ride today. Again, I said earlier, that's how you're going to have to beat Kristen Kulczynski. It didn't work that time, but one of these times you might. It's just like playing the lottery. You can't win if you don't play.
Well, it's true, isn't it? And there's a real difficulty in this group of five now because Gallegos is going to want to go long. Snova, Van Hooling are definitely going to want to sprint. Kulczynski, well, she could go hard on the climbs and really utilise that climbing ability, but I don't know whether she's going to want to take Elise Gallegos with her. So, and Maya is trade team compatriot of Van Hooling. So either those two go down the road, which would, I think, work as a breakaway. But for Gallegos, the challenge is who would go with her? And to stay clear here, she probably really needs someone to work with her. But looking at that list of 5 riders in this breakaway group, the question is whom?
Well, she sent out her first RSVP and got absolutely 0 responses for the breakaway party off the front. So we'll see if she tries to go again, as now we start to see a little gap again on the uphill here. Nicole Meyer putting the pressure up on the front. Little gap back to Gallegos now, who finds herself off the back of the group. 5 seconds back there. Not a lot right now, but that could turn catastrophic quickly for Elise Gallegos. Oh, this is going to be a power dropout for Gallegos. So she's registering 0 power here. This is going to be an e-mechanical here. So this is some sort of issue with the connection either between the bike and the trainer or the trainer and the internet. But one way or the other, that is going to be a big problem for Gallegos here.
Oh, what a shame. Gallegos back in the race now and moving, but that causing all sorts of issues for Elise Gallegos, and it's causing all sorts of challenges for the group here, because we've got Snova, Meyer, Van Hooling and Kolczynski. Elise Gallegos is behind the group now, but she's picking up the power and she's trying to get back into the race. It's going to be interesting to see where she is and whether she is ahead of Melissa Aitken or in the mix, but at the moment we're going to wait for that to settle. The lead group here, Meyer, Snova, Kolczynski and Van Hooling, still pushing on. They're coming to the steep descent and climb out of the bridge at around 2/3 of the way through lap number 3 of 4.
A tough way to lose a rider out of the group, but I guess similar to a puncture or mechanical, something like that. The difference here is there's no car to pace you back up to the group, so she's just going to have to get to work and try and tag this one back, but that is a very, very tough ask to get back up to this front group. So bad luck out there today for Elise Gallegos. We'll keep an eye on that scenario as our front group's starting to calm down a little bit. I think Kristen Kolczynski now going to be pretty happy with this scenario, having gotten rid of Gallegos with that unfortunate, untimely mechanical here. Kolczynski just got rid of her, well, one of her biggest problems in this group.
Well, so Snova, Meyer, Van Hooling and Kolczynski, the leading group of 5, now push up and over into the final third of lap 3. They're going to come as a group of 4 into that final lap, and it's going to be interesting to see what the tactics are now and whether anybody wants to go from the group. And Kolczynski, well, you know, every time we get to the end of this lap, Kolczynski puts the power down. She's doing it again. 3rd time's a grace, and Kolczynski nailing it now. Van Hooling and Meyer responding. Snova is the rider at the back of the group here. How long is Kolczynski going to hold this? Because Van Hooling's already come off the power, assuming Kolczynski was going to as well. And she hasn't. Sneaky move from Kristen Kolczynski. Read wrong on the road by Van Hooling. Nicole Meyer comes up over the top of Van Hooling and picks up the work. Van Hooling jumps on her wheel.
Kolczynski still going at it, 7 watts per kilo up and over the top. Here comes Nicole Meyer trying to bridge the gap. Now, Meyer is on the way up. I think she's probably going to get there to Kolczynski, but Van Hooling and then Snova behind her at 2 seconds back. Snova is the rider that we should really be watching here. She's going to be in the biggest trouble in this scenario. Massive gaps being opened here by the Kristen Kolczynski attack through the line here. And now it looks like Nicole Meyer may be the only one with a shot. That's Van Hooling behind her, and then Snova a little further back, about equidistant between those 3 as they try and figure out what to do about Kristen Kolczynski escaping up the road. And this is a great scenario for Kolczynski as well, because she doesn't have 3 riders working together to chase her. She's got 3 individual riders doing individual efforts, just trying to catch the rider in front of her. So Nicole Meyer not getting any help from the riders around her. Liz Van Hooling not getting any help, although it looks like she may be linking up with Lexi Snova here, but Meyer is on her own to try to reel back Kolczynski.
Oh, she is indeed, and it's not a surprise move, Brad, because Kolczynski has tried this before. She's shown her play already in this race, attack after attack, and as though she's done it in a different place, she hasn't. She's always done it on the run into the finale of the lap, and she's done it again in pretty much a similar place to back off of the power. Van Heuling really must have been expecting Maya to come up and over the top and to pick up that chase, because to come over the climb and to just drop off that power on the descent, either she is not feeling strong enough to go with Kolczynski, or it was an unexpected move and she expected Kolczynski to come off of that pace.
This is a KO move from Kolczynski, knocking out this group with a brutal attack through the line here. So now Kolczynski basically looking at a 12-kilometer time trial here, assuming that no one else gets back up to her. She's got to hold on to this solo scenario here for the last about 12K of racing, a little under that they've got left right now to make it 42.2K total today. So Kolczynski's going to know her fitness very well. She absolutely thinks that she can do this for 12 kilometers. She had this one circled on her stem. I can guarantee it, knew exactly where she wanted to go, called her shot, and so far it's working as she has gotten Nicole Meyer down to a 5-second gap right now. And in the world of MyWhoosh, 5 seconds can be a long time depending on how you look at it, and unfortunately for Nicole Meyer, it's trending the wrong direction here. So this is where 5 seconds starts looking like a mountain ahead of you.
It does indeed, but great to see both the riders on our screen at the moment. Kristen Kolczynski at 31.2 kilometres, 45 kilometres an hour. Nicole Meyer, she is not far behind, it's about 50 metres, and her pace is higher. I'm wondering whether Kolczynski is going to let Nicole Meyer come up onto her wheel, because they have one full lap left to go on this course, and two might be easier than one to stay clear of Snova, who's doing chasing behind. But Van Heuling, well, now 25 seconds back from Meyer, 28 seconds back from Kolczynski. It's going to be a big ask for Liz Van Heuling to come back from this at the moment. Meyer and Kolczynski, I think, are probably going to come back together again, and we're going to see those two riders possibly, and I say possibly, work together to stay clear on the final lap of the race.
Well, that will be the story now. Can Meyer catch Kolczynski? She is slowly but surely reeling this one back in, making minute progress every time we check in, but Meyer is on the way up, and once you got that rider in sight, it is so much easier to make this catch right now. The good news is that Kolczynski isn't hitting it. I say that as she rides 5 watts per kilo, which is out of this world for someone like me, but a relatively easy ride for Kolczynski up at the front. So that is boding well for Nicole Meyer as she reels this one back in. But Kolczynski certainly not making it easy. There would be an element, you could tell if Kolczynski wanted to ride with Meyer here, because she would let up and immediately join Meyer, right? She only needs to drop like 2 or 3 watts per kilo for 3 or 4 seconds to let Nicole Meyer get up here and make the catch, but she's not doing that. She's staying on it. So this is Kristen Kolczynski saying, look, I can do this all day. I'm going to ride my tempo, whether you like it or not. If you want to come with, you're more than welcome. But Kolczynski is certainly not leaving the door open to Nicole Meyer right now.
Well, Kolczynski on the left-hand side of the screen, Meyer on the right. They are 1 and 2 on the road at the moment. Kristen Kolczynski, the defending champion from 2024. Meyer now 3 seconds back as Kolczynski stamps up over the next rise. It's 10%, 12% under the wheels of Kristen Kolczynski, and she's making the most of that climbing ability and the repeatability of those efforts. Nicole Meyer, she's desperately trying to claw back those seconds, but on every climb, Kolczynski is staying clear.
Meyer hanging tough here, just will not go away despite Kolchinski's best efforts here. A lot of credit to this ride for Nicole Meyer. Not only the only rider that was able to respond to this Kolchinski move, but the fact that she's been holding on to this 4 or 5 second gap for this long speaks very highly of Nicole Meyer's fitness and riding ability here. So she's having a great ride, just trying to chase Kolchinski here, who's having an equally great ride on the front, having dropped the entire group after a couple brutal attacks. But she's really been the antagonist in this story, as Kolchinski has been the animator for the attacks that really ended up sticking out there today.
Yeah, and this gap is holding at 4 seconds. It's not a big gap, but it is holding there. These two riders are very well paced against each other, and maintaining this gap is what is happening. The gap back to Alexei Snova is going out, however. So Snova in third place at the moment on the road. The gap getting bigger to Meyer and Kolchinski. So now 21 seconds back from Kristen Kolchinski. Nicole Meyer still holding at that 3 or 4 second gap. These two now, I think, really are going to be locked in this battle. And it's almost like who can last the distance?
This is really entertaining to watch Nicole Meyer chasing Kolchinski here, sort of seesawing back and forth from 3 to 5 seconds one way and then the other. Kolchinski lets off, Meyer lets off, two really evenly matched riders out here, as Nicole Meyer doing everything she can to try to respond to this one. All the credit in the world. The fact that she still got Kristen Kolchinski in sight after this long of chasing is really, really impressive. If you understand how difficult that is and you watch a lot of these virtual races, you realize how quickly these gaps usually go out. Once you're dropped in a lot of these scenarios, but that is not the case with Nicole Meyer right now. She is holding on with everything she has, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and she's still got Kolchinski in her sights, and I think that is an absolutely big motivating factor. The fact that you can see the rider that you're chasing on the road really keeps you dialed in and really keeps you wanting to make the catch. And with the rolling parkour that we've got, you're going to see the rider, you're going to look as though you're coming back together because the climbs are going to shorten the distance, the descents are going to lengthen the distance, but the continuing, it's like an accordion being played here between Meyer and Kolchinski at the moment.
Keeping an eye on the other battles forming out there as this front group either comes together or falls apart, depending on how you look at it. Alexei Snova sitting back all by herself, about 15 seconds back on this group. I was wondering if she was going to come together with Liz Van Hooling, but Van Hooling about 30 seconds behind Snova right now, and then another 30 seconds back to Melissa Aitken. So pretty evenly spaced between these three riders here as Snova all by herself. Impressive ride for Snova, too. Keeping Nicole Meyer to 11 seconds in this scenario, also impressive here. So a lot of fight in that front group. Even as it came apart, they're certainly not throwing in the towels today.
Well, for Snova, this is the battle for the podium, isn't it? This is that ride for the bronze medal in the National Cycling Esports Championships for the USA. There really is a drive here for that third place and that podium spot. So Kolchinski, Meyer and Snova, 30 seconds at the moment, separating the podium.
Well, now Kolchinski just has to be careful and make sure that Meyer doesn't sneak up on her. That would be a scenario where Meyer could put in a really solid 10 or 15 second effort and take back those seconds that she needs here. But Kolchinski would have to leave the door open and give her the opportunity to do so. Same story with Snova here. If she catches Meyer sleeping, she can absolutely close down that gap. But I don't think Meyer's taking any naps on the last lap of racing here. So Snover's going to have to square this one back fair and square.
Well, they are indeed as they move into the final stages of this course, this 4-lap course, the Dust Trail in Hedera on MyWhoosh, the home for the USA Cycling Esports National Championships for 2025. And it's Kristen Kolchinski at the moment, the defending champion from 2024 on the front. She's attacked towards the end of lap 3, got into lap 4 and has just been now extending maintaining that lead over Nicole Meyer. It held around 3 or 4 seconds for a long time. It's now at 10 seconds to Meyer, 25 seconds to Snova, and Kulczynski, well, she's at 36.4 kilometers in this 42.2 kilometer race. She has got the rolling terrain in front of her, but her rhythm, Brad, just looks good.
Kulczynski looking nice and comfortable. This is right in her wheelhouse, right around just under 6 watts per kilo seems to where she's kind of the most comfortable in this scenario. So she can just ride that for the remainder of this race, as she's got the 9-second gap over Nicole Meyer, Snover at 23 back, and then Van Hooling at a minute back from Kristen Kulczynski, who has slowly but surely dismantled this group of what was 8 riders, and she just picked them off one by one. Just brutal out there today. I think that's the best way to describe this racing. No quarter asked for, no quarter given for someone like this.
Well, and she's really taken it by the scruff of the neck and told everybody else out on the course that if you want to beat me, you're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to work hard, and you're going to have to just prove that you are stronger than me today, because she has been aggressive all race.
I don't think this will ever become a victory roll to the line here for Kristen Kulczynski. She's going to stay on this all the way through, because Nicole Meyer is an omnipresent threat behind her, and she will attack if she sees the opportunity. So Meyer trying to hold on to second place, and then Snover behind her trying to hold on to third here. For these 3 riders, a podium performance is a good ride out there today. All things considered, in a really strong group of 8, that's a performance you can be happy with, ending up second or third on a day like today, after Kulczynski just was so aggressive in this group.
I agree, and interesting to see Snova at the moment closing down the gap on Meyer, not hugely, but just gently creep, and Nicole Meyer is going to have to start taking a look over her shoulder soon. Snova now at 16 seconds behind her. That gap at one point was larger, so she's going to have to be careful she doesn't run out of road and Snova close down and sneak that second place away from her.
Meyer keeping the pressure on as well, doing a very strong ride today, keeping that right around 5 watts per kilo over on the right-hand side of your screen. Looking a little further back, you see Jen Reel hanging in there 3 minutes back on this group. Looks like she's going to finish the day today, which a lot of credit due for that in her second race of the weekend. Melissa Aiken hanging in there as well. And still trying to figure out what happened to Lise Gallegos, who suffered that virtual mechanical earlier in the day. She did get back up and rolling for a while, but going to be very tough to recover from that one today. So looks like 1, 2, and 3 going to be pretty well sorted out here as they make their way into the closing kilometers here. But that's why we race the last kilometers. Anything can happen on any given Sunday.
Yeah, the race is not over until you are over the line. That is something we tell a lot of young riders who think they've got it in the bag until someone pips them at the post. But great to see Jennifer Reel and Emily Nyquist, the 2 trade team teammates, racing together now at 7th and 8th place on the course at the moment. Kulczynski now at 38.7 kilometers. The gap to Meyer is now 15 seconds. The gap between Meyer and Snova, it's just gone out again slightly, but it was at 15 seconds. So Meyer now in the middle, almost exactly between Kulczynski and Snova as they come in towards the last few kilometers. They're heading into the bridge. There you go. Kulczynski's driving up it for the last time. Nicole Meyer now drives up it as well. There's only around, I think there's less than 100 meters separating these riders as Kulczynski goes over the top, and Meyer now bridges the brow over the cobbles and on to the flat road above. She's driving and continuing to drive in second place behind Kristen Kulczynski. And Snova, well, she is putting in a sterling performance distance as well on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen at 39 kilometres. Liz Van Heuling settled in 4th place at the moment, 30 seconds up the road from Melissa Aitken in 5th.
Snover was on her way back there for a second. She was making exceptional progress. Now, it's tough to tell on this course because there's so much up and down. You get sort of an inflated or deflated look at the gap sometimes if one rider is climbing, one rider is descending. But Snover is within 15 seconds of Nicole Meyer, and I think that's kind of a regulated number on the ups and downs here. So all things considered, pretty good ride for Alexi Snover in 4th right now, trying to chase down Nicole Meyer in 3rd. As we watch your current race leader, this is Kolchinski on her way into the closing kilometers here, but still only 18 seconds for someone like Nicole Meyer. You're still not into victory dance territory yet for Kristen Kolchinski.
No, but I think Kolchinski is a measured rider. I think she knows exactly what she's doing. She's come in with a plan today, and slowly she's been ticking off those goals as she's achieved them. So Kolchinski now at 40.1 kilometres. She's coming up for 2 kilometres to go now in the USA Cycling Esports National Championships for 2025. The defending champion leading the charge into the final 2 kilometres. The gap back to Nicole Meyer. She's on the right-hand side of your screen now, around, 15 seconds. It's holding very comfortably for Meyer. She's doing a great job holding that 2nd place, clear of Alexi Snover in 3rd.
Oh, a worthy winner on the front of the race today. Kolchinski has the body of work to back up this repeat national championship here. When you look at the entire season from her ERL stop to the World Championships to last year's national championships, and the ability to repeat here really speaks to the consistency of Kolchinski, her ability to show up no matter what, no matter where, and race at the very highest level. Kolchinski really is one of the best out there right now.
Yeah, she is indeed. And to come back into the national championships, knowing that the form's not been there, knowing that you've been a little unwell, and wondering what is going to happen. Well, there's no wonder, there's no doubt, there's no worry for Kristen Kolchinski at all out on the race course today. She's up and on your screen. We're going to watch her come into the final kilometre of the USA Cycling Esports National Championships today. The defending champion pulls a grimace on that face as she digs into the climb. There's 2 climbs to go, just 2 short, sharp efforts. 1 now done. She drops down the other side. There is 1 short, sharp climb to go for Kristen Kolchinski. She is going to defend that national championship jersey in style.
Pretty clear that Kristen Kolchinski goes all in on everything she does, including this race today, as she's going to finish this one out of the saddle with a 24-second lead over Nicole Meyer as she makes her way into the last kilometer. But no time to enjoy, no time to rest. Got to keep that fitness up and get that ride in. Kolchinski just dominating out there today, as she's not only going to win this one, she's going to win it solo with no one in the picture behind her.
Well, I bet she is pleased she took to the start line today to defend that title. And I bet she didn't necessarily expect the race to go this way. But that dogged determination, that attack, that drive, that absolute will to win from Kristen Kolchinski coming to play here on the USA National Championships today. She hits the flatlands. She sees the UCI banner. That is going to be the win for Kristen Kolchinski today in the elite women's race here for the USA and National Cycling Esports Championships. The defending champion has indeed succeeded. Kristen Kolchinski defends her jersey in style.
A celebration for Kolchinski across the line, and now Meyer going to be rolling her way in. This will be good for a silver medal today for Nicole Meyer. What a fight for her today. The only rider able to hang with Kristen Kolchinski through every move and even all the way through the line, never gave up. A silver medal for Nicole Meyer today. Well deserved just off the back of Kristen Kolchinski. A great ride for silver. And then this will be her bronze medalist on the way in, Alexi Snover, having a great season for the Fount cycling team. And Snover going to have a bronze medal at the Esports National Championships to show for it in 2025.
Yeah, great riding from Snover, really holding that distance, holding that gap, and staying clear of Liz Van Heuling in fourth place today. Snover staying in third. Really, really good work from Alexi Snover there when that attack came from Kolchinski, settling into her own pace, settling into her own rhythm, and achieving that bronze medal today.
Van Heuling with a great ride as well. Tried to hang with those attacks as long as she could, then found herself all alone for a while. But eventually working her way in solo and holding off Melissa Aitken.
Yeah, Liz Van Heuling comes round the corner, sees that finish line, and you can see there on her face, just picking up the pace a little bit there, coming into the line, coming out of the saddle and targeting the line. That's what we love to see. We love to see the riders pushing for that finish line, regardless of finishing position. But regardless of finishing position, Liz Van Heuling is going to come over the line for fourth place today in the National Championships. Great job, great work. Great to see Liz Van Heuling out here and competing in style.
Melissa Aitken next through the line. Almost got to Van Heuling here. All things considered, Aitken did a really nice job hanging in there today again after getting dropped out of the group early. There was really no give up in her. So a really good ride from Melissa Aitken. That'll be good for fifth place out there today. And then we'll see the rest of the riders rolling through to round out our top 10. Including Jennifer Reel and Emily Nyquist. Looks like they're going to roll in together. Maybe we'll get a little sprint out of these two.
Yeah, well, these two working well together at the moment out on the course. They have 2 kilometres left to go. Can I just say, I want to put a big call out for Melissa Aitken. She has really, really impressed me over the last few months worth of racing, and I really look forward to watching her race and develop in the future as well. So Melissa Aitken, just a fabulous rider and racer to watch. Jen Reel, I'd love to think that Jen Reel there is... Yeah, sorry, I just love to think that Jen Reel there is chatting to Emily Nyquist as they ride through together on the championship draw here as they come into the final stages.
Oh, it's nice to see the returning riders back for more here. It's we've been watching these riders all season in the Echelon Racing League, so some nice teamwork and I think friendships even made along the way. And isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day, Emma?
It is indeed, and there is Emily Nyquist, the other rider in this duo here. So Nyquist and Reel, the two riders here. Jennifer Reel taking away that national title yesterday in her age category. So a fabulous weekend for Jennifer Reel. Emily Nyquist here riding through to the finish. They are going to finish in 6th and 7th in the national championships, but who is going to take which spot? What happens on the run into the finish with teammates? Normally there is a little call for respite until a certain point on the course, and then it is anybody for themselves. Is that going to happen with Reel and Nyquist today?
We'll see. Coming up on the last kilometer of racing here, this would be their red flag. We'll see if anyone wants to jump out of the group. Reel up to the front with the blonde hair. Nyquist, the brunette, right behind her, so you can tell them apart wearing the same jersey here. Looks like Nyquist going to lead it out on the front. Reel going to be in good position to try to jump the teammate here. Or maybe they just roll through together. The only people that know are the two riders we're watching right now.
Well, that is true. And Nyquist is just picking up the pace there as she comes up and over the final climb on the course. They come up and over this climb. You can see the brow of the climb already. They'll drop down the other side and then it'll be the flat run into the finish. Is Reel going to lead Nyquist out? Is Nyquist going to come past Reel? What's going to happen?
Nyquist lets up a little bit. Here comes Real up the left side. They're going to be really evenly matched headed into this one. Off of the last kicker and onto the flats here.
Well, Real and Nyquist have ridden the course for a large percentage of the last 2 laps together. Towing each other around, but Nyquist now on the front, Jennifer Real on the back. It is the rider in the black bike, Jennifer Real. She's coming up and over the top. Nyquist is looking like she may well launch the sprint. She goes at 6 watts per kilo. That's the finish line ahead. Are they going to sprint it out? Yes, they are. Emily Nyquist goes at 11 watts per kilo. Jen Real opens up the gap, opens up the sprint behind her. Can she rush onto the back of the wheel and utilise the draft? Nyquist is too strong. Look at Nyquist go. What a sprint to finish the USA Cycling Esports National Championships. Emily Nyquist takes it from Jennifer Real, 2-up sprint to the line.
Well done. Great sprint for Emily Nyquist, holding off teammate Jennifer Real as that wraps up our top 10 for the Elite Women's race. Getting ready for Elite Men coming up here in about 20 minutes from now. They'll take to the start line at 12:30 Eastern time. Before we wrap up here, though, Emma, anything we learned from that Elite Women's race or we'll be looking for in the Elite Men's race coming up after this?
Oh, I think it is all about who wants to make the call in the racing, who has got the commitment, who has got the determination and drive, because it will take a lot of determination and drive to ride away for the group in that and on that type of course.
And again, Krista Kolchinski, your champion. Gallegos catching up with that glitch earlier, so that affected the results. But Kolchinski first across the line with Nicole Meyer into second and Alexi Snover in third. A solid podium for the top 3 here, but great performances all the way down. We just watched that Nyquist and Real sprint to the line. Super impressive there, so a great ride for everyone involved in our Elite Women's race out there today. That is going to wrap up our Elite Women's coverage as we get ready for our Elite Men's coverage coming up after this. We're going to take a quick break here to highlight some of our age group racing that happened yesterday as we congratulate the national championships in those races from yesterday before we get to our last race of the weekend with our Esports National Championships for Elite Men coming up in about 20 minutes from now. So enjoy the age group category coverage and we'll be back with you for the Elite Men.
Riley Harvey, and this is the USA Cycling 2025 Masters Championship, which took place on MyWhoosh Dust Trail course. It was a hard-fought battle between Joe Meyer and David Henderson, going all the way to the line. Both of them responding to the attacks of each other, and it was a late push by David Henderson, getting up to 16 watts per kilogram there. That was just enough to keep Joe Meyer from taking the win. And they were promptly followed over the line by Martin Coffey, who wasn't too far behind. The gapping having gone to around about 13 seconds. And Martin Coffey comes over to take the overall 3rd place in this event. And riders flying in thick and fast. Wasn't long before David Young crossed the line. Kevin Metcalf, the first of the riders in red jersey. There was then an absolutely lightning attack by Joseph Paulson, who was behind both Gregory Tafoya and Randall Warren. Joseph Paulson unleashing an early sprint, passing Gregory Tafoya and Randall Warren to take that 6th position. Wasn't long then before riders like John Little flew home and Jeffrey Morton, who rounded out the top 10 in the Masters 55 plus category. Masters 45 to 54 age group was a race that was largely dictated by Scott Cunningham. Frequently off the front, setting the pace, disrupting the momentum and the steady rhythm that the pack had fallen into. Scott was animating this race frequently. Off the front, near to the finish line, potentially looking to have won, and Neil Fryatt unleashes a fantastic sprint to drop the main pack and get away and up to the wheel of Scott Cunningham. Scott Cunningham slightly lower on the tempo here, looking to have eased, perhaps burning too many matches earlier on, tries to jump onto the wheel of Neil Fryatt, as we see Richard Mason Rocker also opening up the power bank and going for it. Richard Mason Rocker taking the lead of this race, Scott Cunningham and Neil Fryatt watching him gradually edge away. But perhaps just a little too soon for Richard Rocker, as with the finish line in sight, Neil Fryatt drops another watt bomb, going up to over 12 watts per kilogram. Mason Rocker, battery banks depleted, can only watch as Neil Fryatt flies past. And then, just on the finish line, has second place stolen from him as Michael Gormola runs through. We then saw many riders coming through, with Paul Langerman, Kevin Hodges, Scott Cunningham and Bryant Kelly all finishing very close, mostly in a pack. They were followed shortly by Bryant Kelly, Chris Evans and Christoph Fiziata. And we just drop back now to see Carl Norris coming through to round out the top 10. And then the Masters 35 to 44 age category. Scott Catanzaro and John Brune went early in this race, the two of them working to stay away from the pack. But it came to the point where John Brune felt he had more in the legs and opened up a long-range attack on Scott Catanzaro. Not phenomenally powerful, but enough to break away from Scott. Scott seemingly acknowledging that he didn't have in the legs and just doing what was needed to come through for the second place, as we see John Brune go through here to win. Scott Catanzaro not too far back, having animated a lot of the race and done a lot of work earlier on, comes through for second place. David Weinstein in third, the first of the red jersey riders to come over. And then there was a bunch finish with Eric Hill, Joseph Miller, Michael Brown, Andre Mateus and Adam Kara all coming through. We drop back now to see Brad Greenberg coming up to the finish line to take 9th place. Selling continued further back, with Jeremy Belcher being passed by Dave Garguilo and Jason Mount, who battle valiantly to the line, but Dave Garguilo just taking that placing. Another fantastic event on MyWhoosh. I'm Riley Harvey, and this is the USA Cycling Masters race 35 to 49 age group, which took place on MyWhoosh on the Dust Trail circuit. We can see that there was a battle going on here between Jennifer Reel and Stephanie Sidlick for the overall race win. The ladies further categorised by their jersey colours, and we can see Jennifer Reel here managing to hold the pace and keep that gap on the sprint all the way to the finish line, and just taking the win from Jennifer Reel. Melissa Tuma and Randy Gino had been battling together and sharing the work as the race went on. Randy Gino opening up an early sprint Melissa Toomer a little late to respond here with a more powerful sprint, but not able to close the gap to Randy Gino, and Randy Gino taking the third place overall. Melissa Toomer coming in fourth. Kristen Hall having been gapped earlier on the race, puts in a big sprint to take home the fifth place overall in the race. And Margaret Lowe, unable to cope with one of the earlier accelerations in the race and being dropped from the pack, rode most of the race solo and came in with a solid finishing time. And on to the Masters 55 Plus Championships. Kathy Collins and Catherine Phillips battled all the way through this race from the very beginning. Jennifer Slaughter stayed with them for much of the race, but after being dropped multiple times, the elastic eventually snapped for Jennifer Slaughter, and it was left down to Kathy Collins and Catherine Phillips watching each other up to the finish line. It was just a waiting game to see who would open up their sprint first. And we see Kathy Collins here getting the drop, and Catherine Phillips opening up the sprint early, going long. Catherine Phillips responds, but has just mistimed it slightly, not able to use that draft to leapfrog Kathy Collins. And Kathy Collins taking the overall win. Jennifer Slaughter comes in not far behind, managing to keep the gap there over Yvonne Warbrawl, who was fighting diligently to get back to Jennifer Slaughter there. Jennifer Slaughter comes over the line for an overall third place finish. Yvonne Warbrawl not far behind, not able to conquer that 13-second gap. Margaret Thompson. And then finally, rounding out the finishers, we've got Mary Ellen Allen. Fantastic racing from all involved today. Excellent event on the MyWhoosh platform.
Welcome back to the 2025 USA Cycling Esports National Championship, celebrating our fourth year of Esports Nationals here in the United States. On MyWhoosh, we've just wrapped up our Elite Women's race, and now time for the Elite Men. Brad Soner back alongside Emma Martin as we get ready for our final race of the weekend, Emma, and this one's going to be a good one.
Well, it is going to be a good one because if you've seen the start list and you've read that list of names, those contenders on those start sheets, you know it is going to be a cracker. Brian Duffy, the defending champion from 2024, is on the start line alongside Hayden Pucker, who has got to be, well, he's nailed his colours to the mast and stated very, very clearly he wants the title this year. That's going to be a good race. John Brune has been riding well. Neil Fryatt is in here after riding the age champs yesterday. And, he's been riding really strongly. And if he is in the mix when it comes to a sprint, you can never discount Neil Fryatt. Zach Nair in there as well. It's going to be a great race today.
A few big names on that list, as you said, defending champ Brian Duffy, but Hayden Pucker on an absolute tear this season. So those will be the two big names that we're looking at. The question is, does this course favor any of those big names today?
Wow. This course in Hederiat, 4 laps of the Dust Trail, 42.2 kilometres of racing, 684 metres of climbing will decide the USA National Championships, the Cycling Esports National Championships for the elite men today. It's a very punchy course. Lots of very short, sharp climbs, very steep in places, topping 14%. But there is nothing longer than seconds. They are about 20 to 30-second efforts. It is on, off, on, off, on, off. Where and how you get away on this course, if you're looking for a breakaway, is absolutely key. Staying in the pack, keeping your powder dry and hoping for a sprint. I'm sure there are some of our racers in there today who are hoping that's going to be how this race is going to play out. But never make an assumption from looking at a parkour map, Brad. That's what I've learnt, particularly when you've got the elite men here. If the Echelon Racing League was anything to go by, we're going to be in for a cracking national championships.
Really only one flat section on this course, and that's at the start finish. You can see it just at the end and beginning of the profile. But other than that, you're pretty much going up or down the entire time on this course. So we're going to look for some very aggressive racing. Big field starting out there today. So these guys are going to have to sort through a lot of riders in this group, but I'm sure there will be an initial separation here as we get things underway. Elite men off and rolling at the 2025 USA Cycling Esports National Championships as we keep our eye on one of the big pre-race favorites. Hayden Pucker hanging in as defending champ Brian Duffy gets to the front. The big names already making their way to the front of the race.
Well, they are indeed. Fryatt and Duffy, the two riders on the front. Hayden Pucker coming up to the fore. Van der Zandt is in there as well, who's been going well, actually. I've been watching him race out elsewhere on MyWhoosh as well, and he's been putting in some really strong performances. So never to discount him either. Kurt Druffel now coming to the fore of the group as well as the pack. Well, they have rolled out of the start pen. They are heading around the first corner. As Brad indicated, this is the only flat section of the course today, the run out the start pen and the run into the finish line.
Well, now they're going to hit their first up of the day, and you can see how steep it is. A pretty serious kick here as the road turns uphill as we tune in with Brian Duffy here back in his pain cave, sitting comfortably in the group. You see him responding to this uphill, keeping those shoulders steady side to side here as he lifts the tempo. Pretty easy run up. I say relatively easy for these guys at only 6 or 7 watts per kilo. When they sprint, they will get up towards 10, 11, 12 watts per kilo as now you see Hayden Pucker on the attack. Now, Pucker going to attack on the way down here, and Duffy's trying to respond to that one immediately. It is on here in 1 minute and 35 seconds already. Your two pre-race favorites have found some separation at the front.
Well, and Neil Fryatt responding really, really quickly there to Hayden Pucker. He said Fryatt had a sprint on at 12 watts per kilo to close the gap. There you go. He's just demonstrated what type of sprint he has. And it's not even the finish line. He's backed off the pace now. He's brought it back together. Brian Duffy is in there as well at the front of the group. But Hayden Pucker, what is that? Come out of the start pen and lay it all out on the road. You know, that no shyness around Pucker today. He's not keeping his powder dry and keeping his tactics hidden in his pocket. He's got the roadmap out. He's written on it in big, bold pen. I'm going for the gun. Let's go. Let's race. We've got 42.2 kilometers to decide this, and we are going hard.
That will be the first of many Hayden Pucker attacks today. Mark my words, you're going to see more of that before this one wraps up today. Neil Fryatt getting a little outdoor action in his pain cave, trying to stay cool out there. You don't see a lot of long sleeve thermals in virtual racing, but Fryatt knows his setup well. We've seen him racing from that area all season and doing a fine job of it as Fryatt hanging in this group. Again, with this group, I think really the story is going to be what's happening at the back of the race early on. It'd be the riders that don't come back from those early attacks, those moves that you see going away. So we'll keep an eye on the moves going on the front, but it's really largely going to be about who's surviving in this group as the big names continue to launch attacks on the front.
Yeah, Neil Fryatt taking the win in the age category competition yesterday, 45 to 49. Great to see that. I think he could really stand a good chance. And it's interesting, isn't it, how that race yesterday will play out in his legs today, whether that high tempo short effort. He took the win in 45 minutes, 29 seconds, 3 laps of the course he raced yesterday, not the 4 that the elite men are doing today. Could have been a good sighting race for his performance today. Other riders also racing yesterday. Scott Cantazzaro on our screens at the moment. He too was in the age category. He took second place in his age category yesterday. John Brune took the win in his age category, just pipping Scott Cantazzaro actually for that win. So a number of the riders and racers here today raced yesterday. They'll have that level of knowledge, and they will be more than capable of back-to-backing these 2 days.
We'll see what lessons they learn, including Scott Canzaro, you just saw on your screen there, the next Esport rider. He talked about getting pipped at the line in his sprint. We'll see if he gets that right this time, if he finds himself in that scenario. Mason Roca, another familiar name to us here in the Echelon Racing League. We've been racing all season, and Roca has been consistently showing up to those in this group. So he'll know a lot of these guys from racing week in and week out in the ERL. Most of the riders in this front group, about 15 or so, are consistent ERL participants. So they'll have raced against each other at least 3 or 4 weeks in the weeks leading up to this one. So some familiar names in this group. And it looks like some action up on the front. Somebody taking this group up to single file, and that's going to be Hayden Pucker once again. Go figure.
It is indeed. On the short, sharp, punchy sections, Pucker pushes on, and look at that drive into the descent. A massive kick into the descent, straight up 60 kilometres an hour. And he takes that pace into the next roller. So Pucker on the front, leading the charge at the moment. Brian Duffy Jr. chasing hard as well. The pack strung out like a long, long line behind him. This is a big attack from Hayden Pucker. Is it the attack? Is it too early to be the attack? I don't know, because Neil Fryatt and Brian Duffy, well, they are closing this gap, and Fryatt has gone over the top of Duffy, and he has now Pucker's wheel.
They're going to get Pucker here. Very interesting place for Pucker to attack. What he did was attack on the downhill and then continued on all the way through that descent. So Pucker catching a lot of riders off guard, as now you see Zach Nair and Alex Marr trying to make up that gap that Pucker opened up on the way down. He is just going to keep throwing this at these guys all day long. Remember, he already launched one and put some riders in trouble. He just did it again. If he continues at this exponential rate of spitting riders out of the back of this group, there's not going to be many riders left at the end of this one. So Pucker letting up a little bit now. That gives Zach Nair and company a chance to get back up to him. But, man, they are cashing some big efforts out here trying to close these gaps, and Pucker's just sitting pretty up in that front group as Zach Nair, Dennis Shanger, Alex Marr, names like that have to go up into 7 or 8 watts per kilo. You see those guys up in the front group, what are they doing? 2-3 watts per kilo, nice and easy, as these guys back here scramble to get back up onto the Hayden Pucker Express.
Well, the chase group chasing these 3 riders, Pucker, Fryatt and Duffy, first, second and fourth in the national championships last year. Now, Pucker doing the unexpected in terms of those tactics, catching people out on that descent as he pushes on up the climb here. Fryatt really digging in hard, actually, to close that down. Not sure what he was expecting, but then he's obviously expecting the unexpected from Hayden Pucker at the moment. And his plan, well, Fryatt's plan looks to be stick to Pucker's wheel like glue.
I'd say that's a pretty good plan based on how things have gone in the first 7.5 minutes of racing here. Neil Fryat's got Hayden Pucker right where he wants him, creating a super rider in the front group up there. Meanwhile, these guys starting to get their act together to chase this one back down. As long as they're in a group, that's a good sign. So if you're Zach Nair, you don't need to panic yet. Those two guys are still within chasing distance here, so there's no reason to worry until that gap gets up to 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. That starts to get into a gap that's a little harder to bring back. But if you're in this David Weinstein group, you've got 6, 7, 8 other guys with you, a gap like this is no problem, as long as everybody works to keep that gap that way. But if those 2 leaders start to slowly take this one out and it goes over 10 seconds, then you got a big problem. So that's what these guys need to be careful of, as it looks like they are going to reel those two leaders back in at the front, but not a very smooth group here. They're still keeping it very disjointed, keeping it tough, as a Pucker and Fryatt just dangling on the front here. And now Scott Catanzaro is going to have his hand at trying to close the last little bit of the gap.
And this is one of these moments in the race, isn't it, in lap one, where everybody in that chase group is looking at each other, expecting them to do the chasing, because they want to keep the energy dry. They want to keep the powder dry. They don't want to expend too much energy too early in this race because they know it's going to be hard. But if everybody looks at each other, nobody does the chasing. And Catanzaro and Mar now bringing, or trying to bring, that 2-second gap back down to Pucker and Fryatt, because that is two riders who, well, if they work together, their group are not going to catch. But I say work together because I think working together for Neil Fryatt is sticking on that wheel.
I think
a lot of these riders,
they're not afraid to do work, right? That's the difference that I see in these two leaders. Pucker and Fryatt are willing to keep the tempo up, while the other guys are kind of looking around, trying to pass the buck in that second group. Neil Fryatt, Hayden Pucker, not afraid to roll up to 6 or 7 watts per kilo if they have to, if they're called to the front of that group. So Scott Catanzaro on the way up now. I think he's going to get in. He's going to bring Mason Roca with him. It's about a second back to those guys, but Catanzaro is really going to be the one that deserves credit for finally closing this down. He did something really hard there to be the one that goes out and locks down those last 3 seconds. No one was willing to do it, but Scott Catanzaro just did.
Yeah, he has indeed. And that gap now, not long, not far to the two in the lead at the moment. Pucker and Fryatt. Pucker on the front, Fryatt on his wheel. And I think Fryatt, Brad, is having a little thought that, do you know what, Hayden Pucker, if you want to win this race, you've got to win it. I'm not going to help you. I'm going to let you do all the work on the front here, because the winner is the one who works. And that is what the thought process, I think, is at the moment. I've got the sprint, says Fryatt. I'm going to sit on your wheel. My job here is to go with you to the finish line and then out sprint you. Your job is to do the work on the front. This group's job, well, is to close the gap down. The gap now gone back out to 6 seconds because Catanzaro came off the front and took a break and expected someone to drive it, and they are not.
Catanzaro got him within striking distance, and no one followed through. So that's going to let this gap go back up. Now you're getting into dangerous territory. This is the kind of gap that you don't come back from, as Pucker and Fryatt starting to get further away here, up to 7-8 seconds here. You're absolutely right about Neil Fryatt sitting on Hayden Pucker here, but the one thing that I did notice is that he's willing to contribute if it keeps the group rolling smoothly. He's not going to spend a significant amount of time on the front. He's not taking poles, but Fryatt knows if it happens where he needs to roll to the front and do 6 watts per kilo for 2 or 3 seconds, he's fine doing that, because that keeps Hayden Pucker rolling and keeps that front group rolling a little bit faster. So even though Fryatt is sitting on here, he's a really good breakaway companion for Hayden Pucker, because he understands how to keep this group moving smoothly and quickly. So Fryatt, I'll say medium part of keeping this group away. I don't want to say he's a small part of it. I don't want to say he's a big part of it, but Fryatt is taking his poles when he needs to.
Yeah, he is indeed. And interestingly, Zach Nair was on the front of the chase group there. Weinstein just coming up onto the front now. Nair putting in a big dig on the climb, but as soon as they come onto the descent, the group are backing off. And I think what they're thinking is if they can modulate their power and push on the climb and then take a small rest on the descent, the momentum will keep them rolling and they won't let the gap go too far. But for me, there's a really finite point. And Brad, I think you were right. Around the 10-second marker is that finite point on the course. And the two leaders are getting to that point. They're at 6 seconds at the moment. This group really have to make a decision now. Either they're racing for third, or they want in.
Well, these guys are in a top 10 split as well. This group right here represents, we'll call it 3rd through 10th place, and then a pretty good split back to 11th from them. So you've secured at least a top 10 ride in the Esports National Championships. Now it's a question of, do you want to try and secure a top 5 or podium, or maybe a top 2 if you're 2 leaders up the road right now. But these guys are keeping the pressure on. I think you're right, though. There's a lot of conservative riding happening in this group. A lot of question marks in this group of riders runners who just aren't really sure whether they have the power to go up against these guys at the end of the race. And that's what's causing this lack of chasing. Meanwhile, Hayden Pucker keeping the pressure on in the front group. I think he just attacked Neil Fryatt going up and over. He was sensing that gap starting to come down. And Pucker said, all right, 5 seconds, a little too comfortable for them. I want to keep this one closer to 10. So just as that one comes within striking distance, Hayden Pucker hits it once again, and now he's going to take this one back out. He let it go down to 5, but now he's trying to take it back up to 7 or 10. Zach Nair realizes this is as small a window as he's going to get, right? He sees exactly what Hayden Pucker is doing up the road, and he says, all right, this is the best chance that I'm going to have. I'm only going to get more tired from here. So now Zach Nair goes all in, trying to close down a 4-second gap, trying to get up to the lead group and lock in a 3rd place.
Well, he's going to have a dig a little bit deeper to close that gap down now. He's got it down to 4 seconds, but he's got to work now. He's on the flat section coming into the end of lap number 1 as they go underneath the banner and out on to lap 2. At 4 seconds, the gap, Zach Nair, he wants to make that leading group 3. He doesn't want to take the chase group with him, and he really needs to work to close that gap down now. Neil Fryatt, Hayden Pucker, the 2 riders at the front, 8 seconds back from this chasing group. Nair in no man's land at the moment in between. The gap at 3 seconds. How much do Puckett and Fryatt want Nair to join them? 3 could be better than 2 in terms of staying away, but the question is, are they going to let him join them? I think they are.
Well, he's going to get there one way or another. Here comes Zach Nair on the way up, about to make it 3 into the front group. An impressive bridge for Zach Nair. He's going to leave Weinstein, Marr, Catanzaro, Scheniger behind as he makes it up to the front group. That was really good racecraft from Zach Nair. I mean, that was just good old-fashioned understanding what's going on. That's bike racing 101. Now David Weinstein is going to try and do exactly what Zach Nair just did. He just watched Nair do it, and he was like, that didn't look so bad. I can have a go at that. So now David Weinstein going to try and make it 4 up the road. He has gone clear, leaving Catanzaro behind. Got about 5 seconds off of them. So here comes Weinstein into the front group. You see Nair drops off a little bit, lets a small gap open up here as Pucker rolls away with Fryatt up the road here. And now he's going to have to go right by him. I'm wondering here if Zach Nair maybe trying to play a little defense off the back of this group, or if Pucker just hit him as soon as Nair got there, and that caused him to get kicked out the back.
Well, the question is really, isn't it, is, we all know Zach Nair is Hayden Pucker's coach. Are these tactics to let these 2 go clear? Zach Nair thought he could come across. We thought they could have a group of 3 and it go clear. But David Weinstein had other ideas and also nearly made the bridge. And in nearly making the bridge, Zach changed his mind and Nair then sat up off of the group so that Weinstein came up onto Nair's wheel. But the gap went back out from Puckett and Fryatt. And, that leaves Puckett and Fryatt now 2 riders clear at the front. Weinstein and Nair, 2 riders chasing. And then a further gap back to the bigger group.
That was an insane bridge because Weinstein was there. I mean, he was right on the wheel of those guys. And then Nair just let the gap open up. He put himself right in between Weinstein and the front group and somehow was able to keep Weinstein at bay. And this one goes back out to 7 seconds up to the leader. So if Zach Nair was playing defense there, that was some of the best defense I've ever seen in my life. Very, very good job of holding off Weinstein here from joining Hayden Pucker up at the front of the group as Zach Nair. Now, I think he's going to sit on this one. I think this is beautiful teamwork here from Zach Nair.
But brilliant work. Hayden Pucker, Neil Fryatt, 2 riders down the road at 6 seconds. Zach Nair, David Weinstein, 3rd and 4th on the road, a group of 2. Clear of the chase group of 5. So actually, even though Nair is now no longer part of that leading group, he's in the second group, he still lined himself up for a better position because he's now racing for 3rd and 4th with the gap now created to the group of 5 behind, rather than racing in that group of 7 that was contesting 3rd through 9th.
Oh, pretty soon these guys going to have some company on their back doors. Scott Catanzaro makes his way up to the group racing for 3rd. So Nair and Weinstein about to see Catanzaro come onto their screen. Catanzaro going to bring Alex Marr and Looks like Shaniger with him, so he's going to drag a few riders up there to this front group. This changes things. A group of 2 is very different than a group of 5 or 6 trying to chase down these 2 leaders here. So now the dynamic drastically changes. We'll see if these guys want to work together. That's the only way that they're going to catch those 2 leaders, is if there's some cooperation and some urgency in this group. That's the important thing. They can't just sit around and look at each other. They've got to keep the tempo high. They've got to keep their power and their speed higher than that front group if they want to bring this back. David Weinstein is the only guy, along with Zach Nair, who is able to bridge up to this group. So he's got the credentials to get there, and he's trying to keep the pressure on these guys. David Weinstein is not happy with a 3rd place. He wants to win this bike race today.
Well, he might do, but he's got company in the group, and that company do not want to work. They are very happy to push on the climbs, but they want to rest on the descents and take it easy on the flats. They're very happy being part and parcel of this group. Pucker and Fryatt now at 16 seconds. For me, that race is gone. Pucker and Fryatt, they are going to be in a battle, I think, for 1st and 2nd. The group, though, are going to be chasing behind, but without that concerted effort, they are not going to bring that group back. It's not big enough. There's not enough riders in there who want to work.
Go a little further back, check in with Kurt Druffel riding into 16th spot all by himself. He's got no one in front of him, no one behind him, trying to close down a minute 50 gap up to Ben Schauland in 15th. But sometimes this is the hardest ride of the day when you're in no man's land early on like this. So hang in there, Kurt. Keep it up. Looking good in a top 20 ride out there, trying to catch these 2 leaders up the road. Pucker and Fryatt up to 13 seconds over the chasers now. And Emma, if they keep this up, that number's only getting bigger. Those chasers have to do something, and they got to do it soon.
Well, they do, but I don't think they are. But Fryatt and Pucker are doing something, and they are now taking turns. Fryatt on the front of this group of 2, this duo, this team time trial, a 2-up team time trial to the finish now, and then let's sprint it out on the final lap. I think that could well be the plan. 15 seconds back to Mar, Nair, Weinstein. But take a look at the power on the front of the group. 2 point nothing watts per kilo.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can see the average power of 2nd through, call it 7th place in this group, not even close to what these guys are doing on the front as Hayden Pucker launches out of this group again, seemingly unprovoked over Neil Fryatt. He just puts massive power into the pedals underneath him as Fryatt responds, and that's going to open even more time up behind them. That's why these guys have the gap, because they can ride aggressive. Even when no one's looking, they're able to ride in a way that really no one else can. So Pucker launches, Fryatt goes over the top, Pucker responds, but more importantly, that opens another 3 or 4 seconds over the chasers behind him as Roca goes out to 26 seconds back now.
Well, for me, Brad, these 2 riders very well matched on this type of terrain and this type of course. Fryatt's sprinting ability, this is sprint, rest, sprint, rest, sprint, rest, sprint, rest. Perfect training for Neil Fryatt, the sprinter. Hayden Pucker, just strong efforts on the bike, and this constantly rolling terrain, again, suiting that type of rider. So 2 very different riders, and we've seen that play out in Echelon. Pucker took 3 wins in Echelon. Fryatt took 1, but he won a sprint. He also had a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th. Pucker had 3 wins, 2 seconds, and a 5th. But for me, those courses, there were climbs on them, single climbs or 2 climbs. Here, the terrain is constantly changing. There's very small amount of flat. And I think the nature of these 2 riders, Fryatt and Pucker, very different riders, very different abilities and skill sets, but actually, because of the course, very well matched.
Pucker is beatable, especially if he doesn't have one of those big climbs that he can just demolish you on over and over. So that's good news for Neil Fryatt. If he can use this course to his advantage, he's got a shot at beating Hayden Pucker today. So this one not over yet. I think Pucker's still the favorite in this lead group of 2, but Neil Fryatt, it only comes down to 1 sprint, and anything goes in MyWhoosh virtual racing here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Neil Fryatt giving Hayden Pucker a run for his money if he can keep Pucker within striking distance. That's going to be the other problem, is at some point, Hayden Pucker is going to try and get rid of Neil Friett before the finish. He's not done attacking yet, so he will try and split that lead group again. He doesn't want to sprint against Friett if he doesn't have to, so that's the next thing that Neil Friett has to worry about and deal with.
Well, we are not quite halfway through this race yet. We're on lap 2 of 4. The two leaders at 18 seconds. It's rolling between 18 and 24. You can see the change happening there. And that's because of the gradient the riders are on. The real time distances between being on a climb, on a descent. And that's why the distance and the time gap is changing. Once the riders get onto the flatter section, which you can see is coming, we will get a really clear picture of what the distance is. But at the moment, absolutely adamant, Hayden Pucker and Neil Friett, the two riders clear of the chase group. And this is the chase group of 6 riders. So Marr, Rocker, Candazzaro, Nair, Weinstein, in this group. Shanager in here as well. Great strong group. Further back, a little bit further back down the road, another group being led by John Brune on the road.
This will be the race to break inside the top 10 here. John Brune has Andre Matias and Adam Carr with him in this group, and Showland also back here. And interesting to see Brian Duffy back here in 15th spot. So Brian Duffy Jr. finding himself on the wrong side of that split here in 2025, as Duffy now riding with what we'll call the John Brune group back here, trying to race for that last spot of the top 10. 9 guys up the road from this group. This group is 10th place on down. Uh-oh, another attack at the front. Here goes Hayden Pucker again.
Yeah, they've just come out from the bridge, the really steep descent and the roller into the final third of the lap. And Pucker goes. Pucker kicks big style. Look at the watts coming from Friett, though, to close the gap down. That sprinting ability is what is going to keep Friett on Pucker's wheel for as long as possible. But at some point, the elastic is going to snap, and one of these two riders is going to ride clear.
I love the way Hayden Pucker races, because in this scenario, everything about you, if you look at the bike racing textbook, says sit with Neil Friett, stay away, get rid of him on the last lap, take it down to a sprint, whatever it is. The fact that Hayden Pucker decides to attack again and again less than halfway into this race just really throws a lot of traditional tactics out the window. Pucker just wants to ride hard. That's what this guy does. That's what he does best, and that's how he likes to race. And Neil Friett, unfortunately, has to play that game whether he likes it or not.
Well, I think Friett may not be playing that game now. He's backed off the power and he's backed off the pace. Hayden Pucker now at 2 seconds. Is this the move that breaks Neil Friett in this race? Is this the move that takes Hayden Pucker clear of the rest of the field? Pucker digs in now, holds his pace consistent, starting on the next climb. What can Friett do? That's the question. I think nothing.
I absolutely love that Hayden Pucker's rider cam gives an accurate view of what people would be seeing in real life, the shot from behind, because they know that's all they're going to be seeing is Hayden Pucker's back when he gets to it on the front. So now Neil Friett, the only guy that's going to have a shot at bringing back Hayden Pucker here, but Pucker just put a massive 9 seconds into Neil Friett. And typically, once you fall for a hit like that, you don't come back, because now Pucker knows he's got the upper hand on that section, of course. He knows exactly where he can dismantle Friett again. So I think Neil Friett at some point just has to be happy with his second place position here. The worst thing that he can do is blow himself up and gamble on second, trying to chase first, and then end up off the podium or outside the top 5, wherever he would end up in a worst case scenario for Neil Friett here. So he's got to make that decision of going hard enough to try to chase Pucker, but not too hard that he blows up and risks second place.
Well, he was indeed. He did indeed finish in second place last year to Brian Duffy in those 2024 championships. And at the moment, he's put himself in a really good position to at least equal that performance with Hayden Pucker now 10 seconds down the road. The chase group 50 seconds back, and this now for Friett is a point in the race where he needs to make a decision. What is he going to do? How is he going to play this? And can he settle into a rhythm and stay clear of the group behind? Or does he try and get back to Pucker's wheel?
I got to say, his rider cam doesn't look like he's given up on this one yet. Fryatt looking like he's maintaining a very high level of effort in this chase. You can see it on the wattage as well. He's keeping it 5.66 watts per kilo up and over there. The problem is Hayden Pucker's doing the exact same thing at 5 watts per kilo at the front of the race here. He's not letting up either. So it's another one of these scenarios where Neil Fryatt can only ride so hard. Pucker has to let up on the front if Fryatt's going to have a chance at catching him. And all Neil Fryatt can do right now is try and watch those power numbers just on top of his name and just look for an opportunity where Pucker maybe drops that down to 2 or 3 watts per kilo. That generally means that he'll be going a little easier, and that's the point where Fryatt can kind of seize the opportunity and try and attack back up to Hayden Pucker. But Pucker's got to give him that opportunity first, and so far he has not done that.
Oh, he hasn't, but we're dropping back in with the chase group, and Alex Marr now leading the charge. Scott Cantazzaro closing the gap down to Marr. Just a bit of a push on the final climb before they head to the flat run through the finish line and back out on to lap 3. Can you believe, Brad, we are not yet halfway?
Well, Scott Cantazzaro would like all the time that he can get on a day like today because he's trying to reel this front group back in, or is he trying to stay away from the group? That's the million-dollar question here as Cantazzaro links back up with Zach Nair here. Remember, Nair, the former breakaway rider who was up with that front group at one point before going backwards with David Weinstein, as Weinstein had made it across the gap, and then Nair took him right back into the group here. So they find themselves chasing at about a minute back, maybe a little less. We'll call it 40 up to Neil Fryatt, but looks like that front group is starting to separate even more. I think Fryatt is finding himself in even more trouble than the last time we checked in. So he is slowly but surely losing that wheel that he had been holding on to since the split was made. Here's Fryatt now at 19 seconds back on Hayden Pucker. Oy, 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 oy.
Well, let's not forget that Neil Fryatt already has a national championship win for 2025 in that age category race yesterday. He's already got that medal around his neck and for first place. Hayden Pucker doesn't have one yet. He's 14 seconds clear of Neil Fryatt. The chase is on behind Alex Marr, Scott Cantazzaro in that group. 50 seconds back from Fryatt, a minute back from Pucker. The only thing I would say, Brad, is Hayden Pucker, once he established a gap through the Echelon Racing League series, they never brought him back.
And that was kind of his hallmark, wasn't it, all season, those early and solo breakaways. Maybe the biggest tell for Hayden Pucker. Really likes to ride alone. He has this incredible ability to put power when I don't want to say it doesn't make sense, but most people would just be cruising. Hayden Pucker will just randomly attack for like 30 seconds. He'll go up to 8 or 9 watts per kilo, just constantly putting in these efforts when and as his body allows. And that's what makes him such an exceptional esports athlete, right? His ability to just put in these massive interval efforts, not only when he's racing against other riders, but he seems to do it when he's alone too. He just adds 5 or 6 seconds here and there. He's not happy with 30 seconds. He wants 35. And then he's not happy with 35. He wants 40. And just always keeps the pressure on no matter what the race scenario is.
Well, I do remember listening to him on a podcast once where someone asked him a question as to what was his favourite training session. And Pucker responded with, the ones that are the hardest. That's the type of mentality that Hayden Pucker has.
I guess that makes him perfectly suited for virtual racing here because this is, without a doubt, one of the hardest disciplines that you'll have to deal with on a bike. It's just really brutal when it comes down to you and the trainer, but the way that these races unfold as well, there's so much mental anguish that goes into these, and it really favors like the time trial riders or the riders that can suffer on their own. They have that ability to put themselves in the hurt box even when there's no pressure of other riders. So Hayden Pucker, a super impressive rider, and the style of rider really impressive as well. Not only strong physically, but this guy is super strong mentally as well.
Yeah, and he's one of those riders where, he sets the goal, he makes a decision, and then that is absolutely his belief in terms of delivering. And you cannot falter him in terms of that attitude around elite level sport. So Pucker now at 24.1 kilometres into this 42.2 kilometre race. He's clearly now out on lap 3 of 4 and leading the race.
Fryatt still in the gap, and then this is your race of the day right here. The race for third with Zach Nair leading the way on the front. Scott Catanzaro with him. Alex Marr there as well. David Weinstein, the former breakaway companion, and then Dennis Schaniger also in that group. Those are your 4 chasers, call it 5 chasers here, sorry, as they try and sort out one final podium spot. Now, this is going to be really interesting to watch because there will be some serious race tactics that go into sorting out this group in the race for third. You got 5 guys all racing for one spot. Do they stay together? Do they split it up? This will be great to watch in the last half of this race.
Yeah, it's going to be, isn't it? And I think we're going to start to see attack after attack after attack go off the front of the group. Look at that. That's Alex Marr putting in that first attack on the climb, coming down onto the other side. There's a long run, actually, for this course into the next climb. But Marr continuing on the power, actually looking for a response from behind that isn't coming. Weinstein goes to the front of the group and steps off the power. Zach Nair's not interested in chasing either, or Catanzaro. Interesting move here from Marr. How far are they going to let him go before they respond, or are they expecting the response to come on the climb? It is going to be a really interesting group to watch this, Brad.
This is exactly how a rider like Alex Marr gets away here, when they don't take him seriously enough and they all kind of look at each other, pointing the finger, and the job just doesn't get done. So I think now we're starting to see these guys take Marr a little bit more seriously, as Nair and Catanzaro going to put the kibosh on that one and say, you're coming with us back to the group here. They realized Marr had a really good kick on him and he was able to get away. But Catanzaro says, all right, you want to get away? Let's get away, as he goes over the top of Alex Marr here. And now Catanzaro going to stay on the pressure here and see how bad Marr really wants to get away today.
Well, it does indeed, and they come down the other side, and you can see the riders just grabbing every single micro rest possible on the course in the pack, because they know the race is on here. The race is on in this group for third place today, that final podium spot, and it's going to be so good.
And you see they let back up on the front. So this is clearly not about bridging a gap. What it's about is trying to get rid of 1 or 2 of the 5 guys remaining in this group, just like we watched Hayden Pucker dispatch the riders one by one earlier today. Well, now these 5 guys are trying to do the same thing. We just watched Marr do it, and then Catanzaro was the next to have a go at it. So they're staying aggressive in this chase group, that's for sure. It's turning into a really, really good race back there in the battle for third, as now they go again, few riders into the red zone. No easy rides in this group. I'm really enjoying watching this battle for third, as they are just keeping the pressure on. With 5 guys, I think they've all launched at least one move on the front today.
Well, it really is a battle, isn't it? And a real race deserved of the Cycling Esports National Championships. Pucker out in front. Fryer continuing a good, steady, strong ride here. Looking comfortable in second place at the moment. He's about 28 seconds clear of that chase behind. He's going to need to keep his eye on that because as that hots up into the latter stages of the race, they could come closer. But Fryer, he's got one very smart head on him in terms of racing and racecraft, and he will know exactly what he needs to do.
But he's not taking this one easily. Up and out of the saddle over that little roller, keeping the tempo high for Neil Fryatt in second spot. Worried maybe about this Weinstein group behind him on the way up. I don't think Fryatt is in pursuit of Hayden Pucker anymore. Once you start to get a few time checks that get progressively bigger, it becomes pretty clear that they got you beat fair and square. So I think Fryatt has given up on the chase to Pucker at 28 seconds up the road. Now he's more worried about trying to hold off this group behind him as we go back to the second chase group on the road. Remember, this was the race for the top 10 spots here, as now we see John Brune and Andre Matias with a little split over this group. So this group's got some action going back here as well.
Yeah, there are races within races on this course today, and each of these groups fighting for position and places. So Pucker out in one, Fryer in two, the pack chasing for third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And then this group, they are battling for that top 10, and that's where they all want to be. Look at that. They are just looking at each other and trying to size everybody up as they complete lap 3 of 4. They're coming towards the final stages of lap 3. They've got one big lap still to go. They're at 26.3 kilometres, and 42.2 is where they see that finish banner.
It's going to be an exciting final lap for a group this big. It's pretty rare to see this many riders coming to the line together at the end of such a big race like this. So if these guys stay together, it'll be a really interesting group to watch finish on that last lap. Should be fireworks for this race inside the top 10. Meanwhile, Chase Group 1, which is the Zach Nair and company group with 2 individual riders way up the road, they're pretty much doing the same thing. These guys are setting up for this last lap of racing, getting ready to figure out how you can get your best result out of the group. So if you're a rider in this group right now, you're already starting to figure out, all right, who can I beat in a sprint and who do I need to worry about in a sprint? Do I want us to keep this together, or do I want to try and split it on the last lap? I guess the matchup in the group would determine what the best way to do that is. So we'll keep an eye on a group up to the left. Meanwhile, calm riding in Chase 1 on the right-hand side of your screen here as well. These guys all back together, and I'm not seeing a ton of aggressive attacks like we were a lap ago, so maybe things starting to calm down up in Chase 1.
Well, and in both of these groups, we're seeing riders, they're, well and truly into this national championship race, and they've now got calculations and decisions to make about what strategy and what tactics they use to get away from the group. And it's not just about what power they can put out, what absolute power, what watts per kilo, and how they utilize that. It is also the tactics at play here, and how brave you are as a rider. Is this about winning at all costs? Is it I want the top 10 and I'm going to either get the top 10 or I'm not bothered about my position? That type of thinking leads to different racing.
Hayden Pucker certainly makes the gambling look easy, doesn't it, when he makes these moves and takes these risks, and they almost always seem to pay off. It makes it look so easy for a guy winning the race here as Hayden Pucker continues to put Diamond and Neil Fried up to 30 seconds now. Those gambles don't pay off the same for most riders. A lot of riders, if they try to do what Hayden Pucker is doing here and they committed the way that Hayden Pucker does, all that would result in was a 30-second gap followed by a tremendous dismantling after that as they fall apart, unable to hold on to those efforts. So that's the difference, that Hayden Pucker has the engine to back it up. Just like gambling, he's the whale that has the deep enough pockets to make these big gambles that he is.
Well, he's got deep pockets and he's got deep watts, I'll tell you that. When you watch or follow, or if you do, Hayden Pucker on social media and you see him put out, and he puts out his dual records for racing, you can see exactly what watts Hayden Pucker produces if you follow him on social media and you are interested in that kind of information. His Zone 2 easy endurance ride is most people's Zone 5, Zone 6 or sprint power. The power that man has and can produce is absolutely phenomenal, and that is what pays off for Hayden Pucker. When watts matter, Pucker produces.
I think the fact that Zach Nair hasn't been able to hang with Hayden Pucker really speaks to just the raw power that he possesses that no one else does, because Nair knows exactly what he can do in terms of racecraft and understanding the sport, when to go, which move to follow. Zach Nair is about as experienced as it gets, right? He knows exactly how to play this game better, probably better than anyone else in this group. He was the U.S. Esports national coach for the team. I mean, he's deep into this style of racing. The one thing that Hayden Pucker has that he doesn't is just this pure wattage. He can just do bigger numbers than Zach Nair or anyone else in this race, and that's what makes Hayden Pucker the greatest esports American out there right now.
Yeah, he really is at the top of the tree at the moment and producing week in, week out. And a real commitment to cycling esports as well, which I think also pays off for him. He's very, very focused. Fryer now still holding at 1 minute on this chase group. So really interesting to see Neil Fryer continuing with a strong ride in second place, still holding this group. The group have not closed down on Fryer. Nair, Cantazzaro, Weinstein in the group, and Zach Nair, you can see it's a good effort staying in the group at the moment. But that look of good effort. Just giving everybody a wave. He's comfortable in that group, I think, Brad. And you're right about the tactics. Nair, an absolute master tactician and strategist when it comes to cycling esports races. And I'll tell you something, he'll have a plan as to how to win from this group as well.
Look at this. Alex Marr caught him cheesing for the camera, trying to take advantage of it here, catch him off guard a little bit as Marr goes on the attack as we got a wave from Zach Nair. Now Marr opens up seconds over the group. Now this is just an invitation. We'll see if anyone goes with Alex Marr here, but I think he was sensing that riding was getting a little too easy when you got guys way the Zoom room cameras, to lift that tempo and make things a little tougher. So Alex Marr says that's enough of that, and he leaves.
Any opportunity you can take, you've got to look for them, and then you've got to use them, and that's exactly what Alex Marr has done, taking that opportunity where we dropped into the pain cave with Zach. Now, I tell you, Scott Cantazzaro pushing on big style here, really wanting to chase this gap down, because he knows if Alex Marr goes clear, that's third place and the bronze medal cern up. So Cantazzaro now pushes on. The race is on. Cantazzaro took the national title back in 2023. He was 7th last year in the elite race. He wants to go better than that today, and he's the rider crossing the gap to Alex Marr. Phenomenal effort and great work here from Scott Cantazzaro, closing the gap down, coming onto the back wheel of Marr. Nair on his back wheel, and in fact the whole pack now coming over. Cantazzaro's done the work, but the rest of the group, well, they've come with him.
And this was the $1 million question right here. Does Catanzaro go right by Marr, or does he try and ride with him? Looks like Catanzaro going to keep the pressure on here as he goes by Marr and continues right around 4 watts per kilo here for Catanzaro. So he's going to keep the pressure on. Shaniger has to go into the red zone to respond to this one. And Catanzaro wiping the sweat off of his brow as he does the work at the front.
Well, take a look at that. The pace comes off of the group. They are all together again. A big, deep gulp of air for recovery. Nair goes to the back of the group. Cantazzaro does as well. He's the rider who bridged the gap to Alex Marr and brought it back together. But take a look at Marr. He's on the front of the group, and I wouldn't put it past him to go again.
I'm going to be watching for that name to light up red, because he's clearly shown that he's on good form today. We'll see if he attacks that group one more time. Meanwhile, Neil Fryer back up and staying on his job up here in the white jersey as he continues the pressure there. Here's some action from Chase 2. Looks like Adam Carr trying to leave the top 10 group behind, so he attacks Duffy and company out of this group as the race starting to heat up as they head their way into the final lap here. Brian Duffy back to the front now as he finds himself on the wrong side of this split. I think he would have much rather have been in that front group, but it really speaks to how important it is to stay with the splits early on. Even really good riders like Brian Duffy Jr. here can find themselves in the wrong group with just one mistake early on, and I do think that's what happened here, because Duffy, in theory, should have the legs to ride with that Chase 1 group, the Zach Nair group. So now all he can do is try and get the best out of this group.
Yeah, it is indeed. And if you're on the wrong side of the split and you don't watch, you've only got to lose concentration for a fraction of a second. And I'm not saying that's what happened with Duffy, but if you do, you can just miss out, and the pack can split so quickly, and all of a sudden you're not where you wanted to be. You're right, Brad, about then reconvening and actually making the most of where you are and making the most of what opportunities are available to you. But Duffy in the pack, not where we were expecting to see him, but The top 15 plus riders now out onto the final lap. This is going to wind up into a phenomenal finale, and not just for the podium, but the battle for the top 10.
Get a 2-for-1 special in today's finish. We'll see Pucker finish solo up on the front, but it's these two chase groups that we've been talking about all day that are really going to be the big show in the 2025 USA Cycling Esports National Championships, as it looks more and more likely like 1 and 2 will be spoken for by these two solo riders. Hayden Pucker, your leader on the left-hand side of your screen, and Neil Friat in a solo second place on the right-hand side of your screen, trying to hold on to a pretty comfortable gap back to third place. So Friat really not in danger of being caught from his back door. There's really a very small chance that he would catch up to Hayden Pucker on the front. So looking more and more like 1 and 2 will remain here. But that battle for third is the one that we've been watching all day.
Well, there is a phrase that you've got to get the bike over the line, and that's what Pucker's got to do to win this race. So 7 kilometres for Hayden Pucker to take the win here in the National Championships. David Weinstein is now the rider here, chasing and chasing hard. This is the group behind Friat, the group racing for that final position on the podium. And we've seen Alex Marr put in an attack, and we've seen Cantazzaro close it down. David Weinstein then took his turn, but very, very quickly, the group come back together again and settle.
On and off all day in this group. Marr launched one. He came back, just saw Weinstein launch another one. Now let's see who's next in line to try to get away from this group. Catanzaro, another really aggressive guy in this group. So no shortage of attacks. It's super impressive that these guys have been able to respond to every one of these. This group is really well matched. I think that's the takeaway here from the chase group here in Chase 1, is that every single one of these guys is very close on the fitness plane that they're on. So that's going to make for a great finish here. Weinstein going to try and go again, as he just kind of inches off the front. I think he's just trying to keep the pressure on here. He's not really trying to split it. Normally, when you see riders trying to split the group, you'll see them go into that red zone, right? Zone 5 or 6 for a sustained period of time. But Weinstein was just getting to the front here. So these guys are locking in and getting ready for fireworks on the last lap to sort out third place on down.
No, Brad, it's an interesting question. Do you think whether anyone can break that group, or do you think they're going to start thinking about it's going to come down to a sprint for the final places in that top 10 at some point in time? If they continue to see those breaks not going, they're going to start to think about what is actually going to happen. Well, what's happening with Hayden Pucker at the moment is that he is continuing to ride clear of the rest of the race. So the gap now back to Friat at around 40 seconds. It's around 2 minutes back to the chase group behind Friat. Pucker just continuing to drive on the course, and the course, the terrain, the continual efforts required really suiting Pucker's style of riding. The question is, if Pucker wins the national title, who could take it from him in 2026? At the moment, Pucker, just one of the strong up-and-coming riders in cycling esports. He could be on the top for some time.
I have a feeling we're going to be seeing and hearing a lot more of Hayden Pucker as this discipline continues to grow. There continue to be more opportunities in it for the riders. I think Hayden Pucker will continue to seize those opportunities with his exceptional talent. So get used to hearing that name. You're going to be hearing about Hayden Pucker for a long time to come here. It's going to be a while until someone else comes along with the natural talent that Hayden Pucker does, right? He's one of those really just once-in-a-lifetime riders, and you're seeing that performance today as he dominates in the elite men's race out there right now.
Oh, he does. Interesting to watch Neil Friat's performance there on the bike, because we dropped back in with him on the camera. The work Friat is putting in to second place at the moment, just phenomenal to watch. The effort, the work, the continued pace, the continued desire to drive in this race and to come in and take that silver medal and to repeat the second place he took last year. Let's just not forget, Neil Fryer also won his age category. He already has a national title on his shoulders for 2025. Yesterday in the age category races for the USA Cycling Esports National Championships for 2025. What an amazing weekend of racing from Neil Fryer.
And you can look at Fryatt's effort relative to those chasers behind him, relative to a very aggressive chase behind him, right? The fact that Fryatt has still put in a minute 30 over those guys that are working together, launching attacks, that's super impressive for a solo guy to hold off a 90-second, maybe more gap, depending on where things equalize here. So, again, another very impressive vote for Neil Fryatt out there today in second spot, all by himself, and holding on to it better than anyone I've ever seen. So really good riding there. Race 4, third, continues to unravel behind. They are still looking for the split that they've been kind of hunting out there all day in the Scott Catanzaro, Zach Nair Chase group. Meanwhile, Hayden Pucker, another guy that can just do work all by himself all day long. 6.67 watts per kilo with no one even looking. And Hayden Pucker's doing work like he's racing for the World Championships here.
Well, you may well see him racing for the World Championships in 2025. I wouldn't put that past Pucker on the form he's on at the moment, but that is not on the table at the moment. What is on the table is the National Elite Men's title in the USA National Cycling Esports Championships, and he is pushing his way there forward whilst we drop in to the pain caves of the Chase Group. This is the Chase Group for third, Brad.
And this one's starting to fall apart. These guys are no longer on friendly terms in this group as the course kicks uphill. They're using this undulation to their advantage. A lot of riders in and out of the saddle, back and forth, in a very high-paced action group in the race for third. So I think pretty much everyone in this group has tried to attack so far, save for Shaniger and Duffy. I don't know that we saw Duffy launch an attack out of this group yet, but it's certainly been aggressive. So no easy rides back there either. We're on board with David Weinstein here, who, remember, at one point had ridden up to that front group. Weinstein was within inches of getting on to Neil Fryatt and Hayden Pucker before Zach Nair got in the way and took him backwards. But he was there. He got a taste, so bravo for that.
Well, I've been watching the cadence of Alex Marr and David Weinstein, and both of those have got a cardiovascular system on them that is a phenomenal engine, not just legs. The pace of that cadence, absolutely phenomenal. 103 from Marr there as he came down and dropped over the top of that climb. Brian Duffy Jr. is the leading rider from the chase behind. He found himself on the wrong side of the break and was in the chase group for the final places in the top 10. He's now ridden clear of that group. So Brian Duffy on your screen at the moment. He's now 7 seconds clear of John Brune, the rider leading the charge from the group behind, but this could be enough to secure him 8th place today. He's only 35 seconds back on the chase group for the bronze medal with Alex Marr and David Weinstein, but I'm not sure he's got enough road to do anything about closing that gap.
I think he is making the best of the scenario that he finds himself in, as Brian Duffy has a rough start, gets caught on the wrong side of the split, but gets the best result that he can out of that group. Meanwhile, Hayden Pucker into his closing kilometers here, but never one to give up before he gets to the line here. Going to keep it pegged right around 5 watts per kilo for Pucker as he goes into just outside the last 1,000 meters of racing before Hayden Pucker finally gets that Stars and Stripes jersey.
Well, he's been dreaming of it for some time, and that dream may well be about to become a reality as Hayden Pucker goes into the final 1,000 metres. The penultimate climb is where he's on at the moment. He's going to drop on the descent and then into the final rise, and then it's going to be a flat run to the finish. The fans are rolling in the pain cave as Pucker gets back up and out of the saddle for the final climb of the day.
Well, riders like this only come around once in a while, so I invite you to join and enjoy watching the best do what they do as Hayden Pucker, a once-in-a-generation rider, concludes his first USA Cycling National Championship. He's going to have a jersey to show for it, but there are bigger things on Hayden Pucker's plate, so you are watching history being made as Pucker will wrap up his 2025 USA Cycling National Championships and earn himself the coveted virtual Stars and Stripes jersey.
Well, Hayden Pucker goes into the final straight. He sees the UCI banner signifying the end of the race. Neil Fryatt was the only rider able to go with him, but Hayden Pucker broke clear. He's been dreaming of the Stars and Stripes. He's been dreaming of putting on that jersey. He is going to make that dream a reality today as Hayden Pucker takes the win in the USA National Cycling Esports Championships for 2025.
Neil Fryatt going to roll in for second place. Another very impressive ride out there today. You talk about the effort that he put in, not only holding on to Hayden Pucker's wheel, but then in no man's land for a second to hold the effort that he did. A real pleasure watching Neil Fryatt out there today.
Well, Neil Fryatt yesterday took the age category title. Today he takes second place in the elite men's race. A superb weekend of racing from Neil Fryatt today, and you can see him on the screen about to come underneath the banner. Second place in the elite men's national championships today.
And that is a tired bike racer right there. Great ride out there today, Neil. And now the battle for the final podium spot on its way into the line. These guys about 90 seconds away from the line here, as looks like Scott Catanzaro going to get with David Weinstein here off the front. They have dropped 5 seconds back. Alex Marr, Dennis Schaniger, Zach Nair and company. So I think Catanzaro and Weinstein going to go to the line together here to sort out the last podium spot, Emma.
Well, I think you're right. They're coming up onto the final climb. Weinstein versus Catanzaro. This could be a good match. Alex Marr, Schaniger not too far behind with Zach Nair. Brian Duffy Jr. 40 seconds back. He's not going to make the catch. But the catch, well, the group is split across the road at the moment, and they've still got some way to go before they turn the corner for the run for the line.
Here comes Schaniger. He's still got a shot at catching these guys. Weinstein lifts the tempo, trying to keep Schaniger from joining the party. Here comes Catanzaro over the top of Weinstein now as Catanzaro gets to the front. He's going to have a nice lead onto this flat run in. There's the arch up ahead. Weinstein redoubling his efforts. He's going to try and come up the right side here. Weinstein into the draft. These guys both together. Weinstein gets to the front. Catanzaro starting to fade in the last 50 meters. And David Weinstein going to get there to lock in third place on the day. Great sprint for Weinstein today.
Well, phenomenal. Another rider taking the age category win yesterday as well. Superb riding and racing here in the USA National Cycling Esports Championship. Zach Nair comes over the line now to pick up the top 5 place. So actually, where is he? No, sorry. Zach Nair comes through in 7th because behind Weinstein and Catanzaro, Schaniger and Marr have already snuck under the line.
Brian Duffy going to roll in for a top 10 ride this year. And then looks like a nice little battle behind him. John Brune, Adam Carr, and Mason Roca also in that group, trying to sort out their places. So as Duffy rolls in solo, in and done for the next esports rider, who, by the way, I think that team maybe has the best pain caves of anyone. They all seem to have the well-organized, just really good-looking pain caves on that next squad. Here's Mason Roca getting the best out of his group. He's going to roll in and beat Brune, Carr, and Matthias to the line with a big bunch gallop to the line behind him. That's going to be chaos sorting through.
Well, that is the joy, Brad, of cycling esports, because there is a computer running the results.
As long as it's not us, that's all that matters. Well, another exciting day for our elite men out there on a punchy course here on MyWhoosh. I think really exciting racing. That Chase 1, I think, was the best group to watch in the race out there today. 1 and 2 really got away separate. They stayed away, but that battle for third, really fun to watch today.
The racing today, just fantastic. I mean, Hayden Pucker, take nothing away from Pucker. He dreamt of those stars and stripes. He clearly came into this race targeting the national championships, and he's rewarded today with top spot, first place, and a time of 57 minutes, 16 seconds, just under a minute clear of Neil Fryatt, who does the double. He takes the age category in Saturday. He takes second place in the silver medal today in the elite men. David Weinstein does a similar job as well, taking the age category yesterday and third place. Those two, let's just not discount Fryatt and Weinstein there. Phenomenal weekend of racing for those two. But nothing can be taken away from Hayden Pucker. He just came and did the business.
Well, it really is a pleasure watching people who are great at what they do what they do. And we got a great peek at that today with Hayden Pucker. So some really amazing action. Congratulations to all of our new and returning national champions, whether you're an age group rider yesterday, the elites today, just great racing and action across the board. So that's going to do it for the 2025 national championships. You know what that means, Emma? Time to start training for the 2026 Esports National Championships. They'll be here before we know it. So I think that'll wrap it up for us today. For Emma Martin, my name is Brad Soner, saying thanks for being here. On behalf of everyone at MyWhoosh, USA Cycling, and Echelon Racing Promotions, thanks for watching all season, and we'll see you back next year for the 2026 USA Cycling Esports National Championships.